Chapter 151. Xiao. In the direction of Dragon Beheading Island, Yun Tao and Dan Taiying led a group of flying riders and landed on the battleship that Wen Yu and the others were on. The cultivators on the battleship wanted to resist, but after witnessing the defeat of the 4 spirit and Qi Unison realm cultivators, they quickly lost their will to fight and knelt on the deck, trembling in fear and not daring to resist. Island Lord. After taking control of the battleship, Dan Taiying and Yun Tao quickly went to Tsing Hui and bowed. Yun Tao, the spirit and Qi Unison realm cultivator, looked at Tsing Hui with eyes full of reverence. They had also seen the battle between Tsing Hui and Wen Yu and the other spirit and Qi Unison realm cultivators. At the beginning, when he saw that Tsing Hui's strength was not inferior to the peak of the spirit and Qi Unison realm, Yun Tao was a little flustered. He did not expect Tsing Hui to reveal his trump card so quickly. However, at the last moment, Tsing Hui's aura rose and broke through the spirit and Qi Unison realm barrier and reached the Qingming realm. All the panic disappeared and was replaced by heartfelt reverence for this mysterious island lord. Not only Yun Tao, but Dan Taiying also felt the same. At this moment, she could not understand whether Tsing Hui was a true Qi realm cultivator or a top-notch almighty who restrained his aura. Usually, he would only release the tip of the iceberg when he encountered a danger that he could not solve with his current strength. Return to the city, Tsing Hui said. Immediately, the battleship was controlled and headed towards Dragon Beheading Island. Wen Yu's battleship was at the 3rd rank and had been modified. It was not inferior to a normal 4th rank battleship, especially its outstanding speed. It could reach 300 kilometers in an hour. Naturally, it had to be kept well. In the future, it could even be used as the flagship of Dragon Beheading Island. Moreover, although the spirit refining, true Qi, and awakening realm cultivators that Wen Yu brought were not many, there were still close to 100 of them. These people could also be recruited for their own use. Being overseas, they had always served their own master. Spirit refining cultivators like Wu Yu who were completely loyal to a city lord were too few in number. Most of the spirit refining cultivators, as long as there were enough benefits and their safety was guaranteed, they would not have much of an objection to serving a new master. Yun Tao, I remember you said that anyone who wants to join your organization has to hand over a Taoist item that contains 10 Taoist rhymes? Moreover, before you invited the 4 of them here, you asked each of them to hand over a Taoist vessel that contained 10 Taoist rhymes as collateral for the mission? After entering the City Lord mansion, Tsing Hui turned to Yun Tao and asked, "Exactly. All right, let's interrogate the 4 of them properly." The 4 of them joined the organization with 10 Taoist rhymes worth of items to carry 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 Taoist rhymes worth of items, Tsing Hui said. The 4 of them together were equivalent to having a Taoist vessel that contained 80 Taoist rhymes. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they were rich. With this Taoist vessel that contained 80 Taoist rhymes, Tsing Hui's cultivation techniques and resources would be properly settled. When the time comes, he would not have to take the risk of going overseas to kill the rank 5 Jiuying. This. I will do my best, but I'm afraid that they would rather die than comply. That will depend on your methods. Many times they will not die just because they have the will to die. I can promise them that if they hand over everything they have and hand over their primal chaos rank, I will give them a way out. Speaking till here, Tsing Hui's tone slightly paused. Leave Madame Zhuyu. I happen to have a soul-scattering pill. Her soul-absorbing bell's effect is extraordinary and will be useful to me. The soul-absorbing bell had a great impact on him. Moreover, this divine weapon was an attack on one's spiritual will. Since his spiritual level had reached the 47th level, it had become difficult for him to advance further. He could borrow the power of the soul-absorbing bell to polish his will. Only by raising his spiritual level would he have the confidence to step into the realm of divine Qi unity. Island Master is benevolent. If there is hope for survival, I believe that the four of them will not miss it. No matter how good the divine weapon is, it is not as important as their own lives. Yun Tao said with a slight sigh of relief. Go. Xing Hui said and quickly returned to his room. As he waved his hand, several divine weapons appeared in front of him. They were the items he obtained from defeating Wen Yu and the other three. Among these divine weapons, the most valuable one was naturally Xuanwu's armor of the middle grade level 5. In terms of value, it was not inferior to Xing Hui's Crimson Dragon Sword. After all, compared to offensive divine weapons, defensive divine weapons were more precious. High-grade offensive divine weapons were occasionally sold on the market, but defensive treasures were usually hidden by people. Even if they appeared briefly, they would be bought at a high price. Another armor of the water attribute. Xing Hui glanced at Xuanwu's armor and shook his head. However, there was no vexation on his face. High-grade defensive divine weapons are difficult to purchase, but it is not difficult to exchange with others. I remember that the Azura King Hun Sha has a defensive armor of the 5th level fire attribute. Although it is only of the lower grade level 5, if I exchange this middle grade level 5 water attribute armor with him, I think he will not refuse. The only thing he needed to be careful of was, the Azura King did not have a good reputation. He usually roamed the sea and did many things that angered the heavens. However, his cultivation was shocking. He was ranked 96th on the top 100 of the Divine Dragon Roll. Moreover, he was very good at preserving his life. More than once, there were people in the top 100 of the Divine Dragon Roll who had tried to kill him, but he had successfully escaped. As a result, he was still at large. 96th on the Divine Dragon Roll, Xing Hui muttered to himself. In the next moment, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then, his gaze fell on the Black Hole Sutra. The Black Hole Sutra recorded a secret technique called skyward travel. It was a secret technique that was similar to teleportation. This secret technique did not have the Kuan Peng bloodline. Although there were some restrictions and the effect was not satisfactory, but if he was prepared, the Divine Qi integration realm was enough. Island Master. A day later, Yun Tao appeared in front of Xing Hui. From his slightly haggard eyes, one could see that he had spent a lot of effort in the past 2 days to interrogate them about the Dao-bearing artifacts. They're all willing to hand over the Dao-bearing artifacts in their possession, but they keep saying that they have to apply for the Dao-bearing artifacts from the organization before they can be repaid. In the process, they'll have to deal with other higher-ups in the organization. If you want to get the Dao-bearing artifacts back when you leave the organization, do you have to go through this step? This subordinate doesn't know. However, I've heard that in similar situations, the probability of the organization returning the Dao-bearing artifacts is very low. Even if it's returned, they'll use various reasons to withhold the Dao-bearing artifacts. In the end, the Dao-bearing artifacts that contain 1 or 2 points of Dao-bearing aura will fall into the hands of the Son of Chaos. In other words, the Dao-bearing artifacts with 10 points of Dao-bearing aura are equivalent to the membership fee? Nominally, they're only mortgaged, but in reality, the organization's higher-ups have embezzled them? What kind of cohesive force does an organization like this rely on? Information exchange. The organization has powerful information channels, and they'll often publicize this information. This information either records the location of the Dao-bearing artifacts or the location of the Son of Chaos true body. Of course, the locations of the Dao-bearing artifacts and the true body of the Son of Chaos are generally not easy to deal with. It often requires many people in the organization to work together to eliminate them. This is also the reason why our organization can maintain its operations. After hearing this, Xing Hui more or less understood. How many people are in your organization? How strong are the higher-ups? This subordinate doesn't know how many people there are in the organization. Because our organization is in fact a gray industry, The number of members is very unclear. Based on the information I have and the information I've interrogated from when you and the other three, I estimate that there are no less than 60 people in the organization. Most of them are at the spirit refining realm or the divine chi integration realm. Moreover, among the 6 higher-ups that we know, 3 of them are at the green netherworld realm. Green netherworld realm. What about their chaos realm? They're all higher than the 10th level. 10th level, divine art. This was the dividing line between ordinary sons of chaos and high-level sons of chaos. When a green netherworld son of chaos used the divine art, all his attributes would be increased by 10, and he would have the attributes of a prominent divine realm expert. Many times, he could directly turn the tide of a battle. Then we'll forcefully withdraw. As Tsing Hui spoke, he faintly felt that it was a pity. If they forcefully withdrew, the Tao-bearing artifacts that were pawned in the organization would naturally be wasted. That was an Tao-bearing artifact with 40 Tao-bearing artifacts. An Tao-bearing artifact with 40 Tao-bearing artifacts? After a moment, Tsing Hui seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, "Wait a moment. Island Lord? You're dismissed. I'll give you an order later if you want to forcefully withdraw." Yes. Yun Tao left the study puzzled. Immediately, Tsing Hui went directly to the Primal Chaos Temple. Forming a seal, he directly appeared in Nalan Fei's personal space. "Pak Hui? You came at the right time. I was just about to look for you. Wait a moment." In Nalan Fei's personal space, there were 2 guests. One of them was Jin Yu, whom Tsing Hui had met once before, and the other was a young man who looked elegant. Then it's settled. The 3 of us, the 2 of you will each provide 5 Tao-bearing artifacts. A total of 20 Tao-bearing artifacts will be shared in the God Refining Pavilion. The man stood up and said with a smile, "Okay. Goodbye." After discussing with Nalan Fei, the man nodded politely at Tsing Hui. His figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. "Qin Yu, you're really charming. Xia Tian has unlimited potential and is a genius who has the potential to condense divine-grade true essence. Once he condenses divine-grade true essence, it's equivalent to stepping into the ranks of high-level members. At that time, with his relationship, it won't be difficult to enter the council. His future is limitless." Jin Yu, who hadn't left yet, teased with a playful look. "Don't talk nonsense. He's a member of a large sect in the infinite wilderness, and I'm far away in the eastern wilderness. We're tens of millions of miles apart." Nalan Fei glared at Jin Yu with some embarrassment and anger. But both of you are very young. Xia Tian has cultivated for less than 80 years, and you have less than 40 years. Once the prominent divine battle physique is formed, your lifespan will be 500 years. When you reach the Saint Realm and condense the leakless golden core, your lifespan will be 3,000 years. The future is very long. Jin Yu narrowed her eyes and smiled. Chapter 152. The immortal level was the beginning of immortality. Normally, after awakening, one would have a lifespan of 200 years. When one reached the spirit chi uniting level, one's lifespan could reach 300 years. When one reached the prominent divine stage, one could theoretically live for 500 years. Of course, these were just theoretical numbers. Just like a normal person, according to the number of cell divisions, one could theoretically live up to 120 years old. However, most people would die by the time they reached 70 or 80 years old. It was the same for the immortal level. Taking the spirit chi uniting level as an example, after 150 years old, one's cultivation would gradually decline and it would be difficult to break through. As for lifespan, it was usually around 200 years old. The above were all examples of normal and spiritual bloodlines. Awakening different bloodlines would increase one's lifespan. For example, the Xuanwu type of immortal level bloodline would increase one's lifespan by several times compared to normal people. In addition, when one reached the level of sacred beasts and divine beasts, one's lifespan would increase again. Even if there was an awakening-level practitioner who awakened a divine beast bloodline, it wouldn't be strange for them to live longer than normal bloodline practitioners of the spirit chi uniting level. Hundreds of years, thousands of years later, who knows what will happen? Okay, I have something to say to Pak Hui. Jin Yu shrugged. Considering that Pak Hui could be as high as 16 chaotic level, she said to him warmly, Pak Hui, if you have time, why don't you come over to my place and get to know each other? Now that we're all members of Sky Dome, we should get to know each other more. Sing Hui nodded, I will. Okay, then I won't disturb your secret plan. I'm leaving. Jin Yu waved her hand. Although she had a gossipy heart, she quickly left. After she left, Nayland Fei went straight to the point. The Hunyuan Heaven Sect's sweeping target has been set. It's the Yuheng Sea Market area. Yuheng. Sing Hui nodded. Yuheng Sea Market was a little far from Dragon Slaying Island, so there was no need to worry. However, according to the information that Master revealed, this matter involves a lot of people. It even involves the other two major chaotic organizations. Therefore, the sweeping area is very likely to expand. The forces included will also increase from the Hunyuan Heaven Sect to the Wuji Sword Sect, the Jinwu Religion, the Green Lotus Sword Sect, and the number 1 sect in the Eastern Wilderness, the Create Evolve Mysterious Sect. The Hunyuan Heaven Sect, Wuji Sword Sect, the Jinwu Religion, Create Evolve, the Evolve Create, half of the 10 Great Sacred Lands, and even the Create Evolve Mysterious Sect is involved? The sweeping this time is related to the Wuji Sword Sect. I'm sure you know that the Wuji Sword Sect inherited the Killing Sword Path before the Divine Wilderness was destroyed. The Killing Sword Path has a giant figure called the Netherworld Sword Ancestor. He awakened the Netherworld Dragon bloodline and relied on his special talent to survive until now. The Netherworld Sword Ancestor is a core member of the Sword Shadow, one of the 10 major chaotic organizations. It is also because of his secret support that the Wuji Sword Sect can develop to such a scale and even fight against the Create Evolve Mysterious Sect, which has the support of the Heavenly Tao. Sing Hui nodded. After entering the Sky Dome Sect, he more or less understood the 10 major chaotic organizations. The 10 major chaotic organizations could be divided into 2 ranks. The top 3, the Divine Wilderness, Heavenly Tao, and Eternal, were the first rank. The 3 organizations were similar in strength, and it was difficult to distinguish the first, second, and third rank. Behind the Divine Wilderness, Heavenly Tao, and Eternal were the 7 major organizations in the second rank, including the Sky Dome Sect and Sword Shadow. The Divine Wilderness, Heavenly Tao, and Eternal were the 3 major organizations. In order to become the master of the Chaos Divine Hall, it could be said that they fought endlessly. Naturally, killing and fighting for resources were unavoidable. At the same time, it also reduced the living space of the other organizations, which caused the other chaotic organizations to be dissatisfied. Sword Shadow was one of the chaotic organizations that was dissatisfied with the Heavenly Tao and fought against the Heavenly Tao. This chaotic organization was not weak, and its headquarters were not in Heaven Wasteland. Even if it offended the Heavenly Tao would not dare to leave Heaven Wasteland and invade. Otherwise, once it was empty, the Eternal and Divine Wilderness would not mind taking the opportunity to add insult to injury. Not long ago, a Grand Elder of the Create Evolve Mysterious Sect received the support of the Heavenly Tao and was bestowed with a precious treasure. He had a breakthrough in his cultivation and his power reached an unprecedented peak. The pressure he exerted on the other sects was even greater. Half a year ago, Hunyuan Heaven Sect's peak Master Hua Yu and Create Evolve Mysterious Sect's true disciple Long Yi both took a fancy to the Master of the Luohua Sect. When they fought for the Master of the Luohua Sect, Long Yi directly asked an elder of the sect to kill peak Master Hua Yu, which infuriated the entire Hunyuan Heaven Sect. But the forces behind the Hunyuan Heavens sect feared the Heavenly Tao and ordered the Hunyuan Heavens sect not to act rashly. In anger, the Hunyuan Heavens sect changed its course and planned to join the Sword Shadow sect through the Wuji Sword sect. When the Sword Shadow sect heard about this, a Grand Elder's clone descended to investigate. This purge is in fact a way for the Hunyuan Heaven sect to prove its ability and determination to the Grand Elder of the Sword Shadow sect. Xing Hui immediately understood why the Hunyuan Heaven sect had chosen Yuhengxi City as their target. 13,000 kilometers north of Yuhengxi City was the Creation Mystical Sect's outpost for overseas expansion. The Saint stage was different from the Immortal stage. There was a huge gap between each stage of the Immortal level. A true energy realm powerhouse could easily kill dozens of Awakening stage cultivators. However, the gap between the Saint stage cultivators was not that big before they reached the 5th level and cultivated divine powers. A dozen Immortal stage 6 experts could kill a true energy stage expert. A dozen true energy stage experts could also kill a transcendent stage saint. After all, the transcendent stage was only a kind of control over one's strength. One could use one's strength to produce 2 times the effect, but there was no obvious increase in one's strength. As for the never-ending stage, it allowed one's true energy to grow and multiply endlessly without fear of exhaustion. In such a situation, it wasn't difficult for a never-ending stage saint to kill 100 transcendent stage saints in a one-on-one battle, but in a large-scale battle, true energy grew and multiplied endlessly, so the advantage wasn't obvious. After that, the flawless golden core of the Saint Stage 4 mainly increased one's lifespan. Because the difference between these 4 stages was small, the number of saints became the main factor. However, it was fortunate that the gap between Immortal level and Saint level was relatively small. That was why the Golden Crow sect, Green Lotus Sword sect, Giant Dragon Mountain Range, and other forces that did not have saint-level powerhouses could force their way into the top 10 saint sections. What are the Jin Wu religion and Green Lotus Sword sect doing here? These 2 sects have also been persecuted by the Creation Mystical sect for a long time, especially the Green Lotus Sword sect. The sect leader of the Green Lotus Sword sect, EE, can be said to be an amazing talent. She cultivated to the prominent divine stage at a young age and is the leader of the Green Lotus Sword sect's revival. Unfortunately, the Green Lotus Sword sect and the Creation Mystical sect are neighbors, and more than half of them have been swallowed by the Creation Mystical sect. If they don't change, they will be destroyed by the Creation Mystical sect sooner or later. Now they are cooperating with the Hunyuan Heaven sect and the Wuji Sword sect to see if they can find a way out for their sect. Every sect has its own difficulties, Xing Hui said. Isn't it the same? Everyone has their own problems, from small individuals to large sections. Isn't it the same for our Sky Dome? Once the Sky Dome, the Eternal sect, and the Divine Wilderness sect become the master of the Chaos Shrine, there will be no place for small forces like us. This was the second time Xing Hui heard Nalan Fei mention controlling the Chaos Shrine. He couldn't help but ask, can the Chaos Shrine be controlled? I've only read about it in the books of the Sky Dome sect. Some of the Chaos Shrines are controlled by others. Once a Chaos organization controls the Chaos Shrine, they will be able to obtain great benefits and grow rapidly. When that time comes, the balance between the various Chaos organizations will be broken. Unless others join the Chaos organization represented by the Master of the Chaos Shrine, it will be difficult for them to advance. Speaking of this, Nalan Fei shook her head. But it's still too early to talk about this. Back when the Divine Wilderness was at its peak, it didn't even control the Chaos Temple. Now that the 3 factions are in a stalemate, there's even less of an opportunity to do so. The upper echelons of our Sky Vault Empire probably understand this point, so they ignore the struggle between the 3 factions and are happy to let them exhaust each other. The Divine Wilderness sect was an organization spontaneously formed by the Sons of Chaos during the Divine Wilderness sect. Tsing-Hui wanted to go to the Divine Wilderness to inquire about Dongqian's whereabouts, but he was only a small figure in the Sky Dome sect. No one would care even if he asked, so he could only suppress his thoughts. Pak Hui, you must have something to discuss with me since you've come to find me, right? Yes. Tsing-Hui nodded and told Wen Yu and the others about the Chaos Organization. In the end, he said, with my current cultivation, if I really go and take the Tao-carrying item from the Chaos Organization, I'm afraid I'll be attacked by them. Therefore, I plan to ask the Purple Sky Sage to personally take action. I hope that the Purple Sky Sage can send a Divine Chi Unity realm clone to the Eastern Wilderness so that the Chaos Organization won't dare to act rashly. After the matter is done, I'm willing to share the 40 Tao-carrying item with me equally with Purple Sky Sage. Sending a Divine Chi Unity realm clone to the Eastern Wilderness consumes a lot of Yuan Chi. Master's recovery rate isn't high, so he'll probably need 3 to 4 years to recover. However, it's worth it to get the 20 Tao-carrying item. Nalan Fei paused for a moment. However, I can give you a suggestion. Although it's a little risky, the success rate is extremely high. What suggestion? You can visit them directly as an official member of the Celestial Dome Empire and use the Celestial Dome Empire's name to intimidate them. You've said it yourself. Although the Chaos Organization is somewhat capable, they're only some level 10 green underworld realm higher-ups at most. In their eyes, the Celestial Dome Empire is an out-and-out colossus. Once the Celestial Dome Empire is enraged and starts a war with the Chaos, it can easily crush them into ashes. I don't think they have the guts to act rashly again. Use the Celestial Dome Empire's name to act. Tsing-Hui's heart skipped a beat. He had forgotten that he was now a person with an organization and background. Yes, the Celestial Dome Empire's name has a great influence in the Chaos Temple. Ordinary Chaos organizations may not have the courage to go against it. Of course, there's a risk in doing this. If those people are extremely vicious and don't give the Celestial Dome Empire any face at all and kill you, then you'll be in danger. Therefore, you need to think about it carefully. I understand. How can there be no sacrifice if you want to gain something? Tsing-Hui made up his mind and said, I'll visit the Chaos Organization and talk to them directly. Chapter 153. The Dark Night. It was a Chaos Organization in the Eastern Wilderness. More than 90% of its members were Eastern Wilderness native cultivators, and most of these Sons of Chaos were from overseas. Compared to other Chaos organizations, this Chaos organization was more like an information exchange platform. Everyone in the organization was wary of and on guard against each other, and the reason why it could survive was entirely due to the drive of profit and the collateral of every mission. Fortunately, due to the fact that the entire organization was doing business without any capital, everyone was able to reap good profits. Over the past few decades, not only did this organization not become disloyal, but it also grew stronger under the drive of profit. So far, it had 63 official members, and it was one of the famous large-scale chaos organizations in the entire Eastern Wilderness Child of Chaos World. But now, Blood River, Sky Border, and Night Gentleman, 3 of the 6 leaders of the Dark Knight, looked rather grim. Is it really an official member of Sky Dome? Did you see it clearly? Sky Dome's official members are of the highest quality, and you must cultivate Divine Grade Gang Chi to be qualified. Without Divine Grade Gang Chi, even if you're a top expert who has cultivated divine ability, you can only become a member of the council at best. Don't even think about having the qualifications of an official member or a high-ranking member. Blood River looked at Sky Border, who had suddenly summoned the 2 of them, with shock on his face. There are hundreds and thousands of chaos organizations in the entire Chaos Temple. I might not be able to recognize an ordinary chaos organization member, But how can I not recognize the badge of an official member of Sky Dome? Everyone, quickly give us a result. We can't let that official member of Sky Dome wait for too long. Since he said that when you, Madame Zhuyu, Hei Yen, and Night Owl have become his servants, we might as well let them be. Otherwise, if we forcefully suppress the four of them and arouse their dissatisfaction, things might not end well. Don't forget what happened to the large-scale divine punishment not long ago. Divine punishment. When Sky Border mentioned this large-scale chaos organization, Blood River and Night Gentleman's hearts trembled at the same time. This was a colossus that possessed a 6th-level Saint Realm expert. In the entire Tianhuang region, this was an existence that was only inferior to the First Hall, the 3 sects, the 6 schools, and the 9 sects. However, such a colossal top-notch power that even possessed a large number of high-level chaos organizations had been crushed by Tianqiong. Not only had all the sons of chaos been stripped of their cultivation, the divine punishment's forces in the real world had been uprooted as well. Countless Immortality Realm and Saint Realm experts had been killed on the spot. Saint Realm in the Eastern Wilderness, this was a top existence that could support of a holy land. Such people were killed at will, and hundreds of them were killed as if they were vegetables. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Although an official member of Sky Dome can't represent Sky Dome, and it's impossible for Sky Dome to start a chaos war with us for an official member, don't forget that Sky Dome has as many experts as there are clouds in the sky. There are even dozens of almighty experts who have cultivated divine abilities and have even reached the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. It's said that there are even dominators who have cultivated domains and stepped into the Saint Realm. If such a force wants to crush us, it doesn't need to start a chaos war at all. It only needs one almighty expert of the divine ability realm to send a clone of the divine Chi Unite realm to sweep the entire dark night. Sky Border said solemnly. Alright, then let's do it like this. Let those 4 go. 40 Dao-bearing items. There was a trace of pain in Blood River's eyes. That's all we can do. Night Gentleman didn't dare to say anything. Compared to a colossus like Sky Dome, the Dark Knight was too insignificant. Go prepare the Dao-carrying items. Night Gentleman, World's Edge, I remember that you still have some Dao-carrying items stored in your personal storage. Let's each take out a 13-point Dao-carrying item. I'll take a bit more, 14 points. That's it. We have to report this matter. After the 3 leaders had finished their discussion, they quickly came to the parlor to meet Xing Hui. Your Excellency Pak Hui. Sky Border stepped forward and politely cupped his hands at Xing Hui, who was waiting in the parlor. In terms of cultivation base, he, a blue netherworld expert, was 2 realms higher than the young man in front of him, but a divine-grade stellar energy cultivator. When Sky Border, Blood River, Night Gentleman, and the others thought about the potential in him, their hearts trembled. If they really provoked the young man, with his terrifyingly rich accumulation of stellar energy, as long as the young man lowered his requirements for them, they could rush to the spirit and chi integration stage in a matter of minutes, and even advance to the blue netherworld realm in a short time. Your Excellency Pak Hui, it's the fortune of Wen Yu, Zhu Yu, Yi Xiao, and Hei Yen to be your followers. They have such a future and can climb up to a big shot like your Excellency Pak Hui. Naturally, we won't stop them. We'll hand over the items that belong to them. I wonder where your Excellency Pak Hui would be convenient? Sky Border said with a smile. Xing Hui looked at Sky Border. He didn't expect that by announcing his identity as an official member of Sky Dome and asking the higher-ups of the Dark Knight to return Wen Yu and the other 3's Dao-bearing items, things would go so smoothly that he found it unbelievable. The scene in front of him made him truly understand the feeling of a fox borrowing the tiger's might. I remember that your Dark Knight's range of activity has always been in the overseas region. It just so happens that Zhu Yu is now in the overseas region, so let's set the transfer location overseas. How about Shaoyang Sea City? Okay, as Your Excellency Pak Hui said, it's in Shaoyangsi City. Sky Border nodded slightly. Then it settled. I didn't expect that our eastern wilderness could produce an official member of Sky Dome. It's really a great honor for all of us. Your Excellency Pak Hui, this is the method to enter and exit our Dark Knight Chaotic Worlds space station. If Your Excellency Pak Hui is free, you might as well come visit our Dark Knight. There are very few sons of chaos in the eastern wilderness, and we don't have a leader. Generally, we're like scattered sand, and we're easy to bully and humiliate by others. We need to be united. Sky Border stepped forward and ingratiatingly handed Tsing Hui a method to open a personal space. Obviously, he had taken a fancy to Tsing Hui's potential as a son of chaos who had cultivated divine-grade Gangqi, and wanted to befriend him before he made a name for himself. In fact, if a divine-grade Gangqi practitioner went to the 10 sacred sects, he would also be groomed as a holy son or a junior leader. After all, even in the 10 sacred sects, there was often not one person in a generation who could cultivate divine-grade Gangqi to divine grade. I'll come when I have time. Then, I'll have to trouble you. Tsing Hui said. It's fine, it's fine. This is what we should do. Your Excellency Pak Hui, if you have any business in the future, you might as well come to us. There are many things that Your Excellency Pak Hui can't handle with your status, we can do it for you. Blood River Traveler said politely. Tsing Hui had a little understanding of the nature of this chaos organization, so he didn't refuse his words. He just nodded and said, if there's a chance we can indeed cooperate. Goodbye. Your Excellency Pak Hui, take care. With several people sending him off, Tsing Hui disappeared from this personal space. After seeing Tsing Hui leave, Blood River Traveler, Night Gentleman, and Sky's Edge looked at each other with a trace of helplessness. However, there was no resentment in their eyes. This member of Sky's Vault is quite easy to talk to. Moreover, he looks rather young. Based on his appearance, he can't have cultivated for more than 50 years. 50 years, to cultivate divine-grade Gangqi. He really has extraordinary potential. But the Chaos Temple can adjust one's appearance, so it's not easy to judge his age from his appearance. If he's really only cultivated for 50 years, we can get in touch with him. A son of chaos like him is bound to have a boundless future. Blood River Traveler. Tian Ye and Yi Junzi nodded their heads in agreement. The business that we do in the Eventide can be said to be licking the blood of blades. If we don't find a backer, then once we're targeted by a great figure one day, our end will absolutely not be good. If this Baisu really has potential, then we can take him as a path of retreat. A treasure containing 40 daos is incredibly valuable. I'll personally deliver it to him and see if I can find out the true identity of this Pak Hui. After that, I'll take a closer look. Sky's Edge said. Investigate? If he finds out, he'll probably offend this official member of Sky's Vault. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Even if the investigation progress is slow, he won't notice anything unusual. Blood River Traveler and Night Gentleman could only nod when they saw how cautious he was. All right, then we'll have to trouble you. This is all for the future of U.S. brothers. If we want to clear our names, this is the only way. Sky's Edge sighed. When Blood River and Night Gentleman heard this, they nodded their heads with serious expressions. The people outside could only see the scenery of the dark night. How could they see the astonishing risk that they were taking? If it weren't for the fact that they had no other choice, who wouldn't want to cultivate in peace? Why would they do such a precarious business? When Tsing Hui reappeared in his courtyard, Yun Tao was already waiting for him with Madame Dogwood. Greetings, Island Master. When Madame Dogwood saw Tsing Hui, she hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Very good. Tsing Hui sized up Madame Dogwood. He could sense the reverence she felt for him. Clearly, she'd already taken the soul-dispersing pill. Yun Tao, make a trip to Shaoyang City with Madame Dogwood in a moment. I've taken back the treasures they've pledged to Dark Knight. Go and retrieve them. You want them back? Yun Tao trembled slightly, then hurriedly bowed. Yes. Treasures containing 40 Taoist rhymes. Originally, Qing Su wanted to ask for it personally, but he could not guarantee that the people of Dark Knight would not be hiding something and try to kill him once they locked onto his true identity. As a result, it was safer for Yun Tao and Madame Zhu Yu to go. After all, these two were Unity of Spirit Realm experts. As long as they didn't offend the top 400 on the Divine Dragon ranking, they could do whatever they wanted. Go quickly and return quickly. Xing Hui waved his hand. With so many Taoist rhymes and Sky Dome's platform to exchange for cultivation resources, his cultivation was bound to advance by leaps and bounds. As expected, it was nice to lean against a big tree. After joining Sky Dome, his cultivation had become much smoother. Chapter 154. With Tianxiong's name above them, the people of the Dark Knight did not dare to have any other thoughts. Madame Zhu Yu and Yun Tao's journey was very smooth. When they returned, they already had 40 Taoist rhymes in their hands. This Tao-carrying item contained 40 Taoist rhymes. In addition to the other items he obtained from Wen Yu, He Yen, Yi Xiao, and Madame Zhu Yu, the total number of Taoist rhymes in the Tao-carrying item reached an astonishing 88. 88 Taoist rhymes was almost equivalent to a chaos level. Xing Hui had become rich overnight. Very good. Qing Su looked at the 34 items that contained the presence of ways in his hand and immediately sucked in a deep breath. Normally, a son of chaos would absorb a Tao-carrying object as soon as he obtained one. Even if he wanted to keep the Tao-carrying object to exchange for a weapon, he wouldn't need too many of them. Now that there were 34 Tao-carrying objects with a total of 88 Tao-carrying objects in front of him, if the upper echelons of the 10 sacred sects were to find out about it, they would definitely send an Immortality Level 6 powerhouse to intercept them. It's not good to keep these items in my hands. The most important thing is to use them quickly and convert them into strength. Xing Hui ordered Yun Tao and Madame Zhu Yu to guard outside the door. Then, he performed a chaos spell and appeared in the Chaos Temple. If it was in the past, without Tianxiong's connections, he would not know what to do with so many items. But now, with Sky Dome's back and Sky Dome's channel, Sky Dome would be able to consume even an item with 888 Taoist rhymes, let alone an item with 88 Taoist rhymes. According to his understanding, the items prepared by Tianxiong contained more than 1,000 Taoist rhymes. During the last battle with God's punishment, Tianxiong took out hundreds of items with more than 2,000 Taoist rhymes. After entering the Chaos Temple, Xing Hui performed a spell to enter Nalan Fei's personal space. He did not get a response, so he could only enter the Sky Dome realm and go to the Scripture Hall to find Zhang Zhen the Venerable. Greetings, Venerable. Zhang Zhen the Venerable, who was reading a book, put it down. It's you, Pak Hui. What's the matter? Esteemed Lord, I already have some Tao-carrying items in my hands. How can I return them to you? Oh? She was pregnant? That's pretty fast. Are you from the Eastern Barren Territory? Although that place is not far away, it's not near either. I'm too lazy to go there. Wait, let me ask if anyone is going to the Eastern Wilderness recently. As Master Tsangzhen spoke, he took out a piece of jade and seemed to be contacting his friend. Not long after, he frowned slightly. No one has made an appointment to the Eastern Wilderness in the past 3 months. The Eastern Wilderness Son of Chaos is not going to make it. The efficiency of collecting Tao-carrying artifacts is too slow. No one wants to go, and even the weakest incarnation of mine will have to rest for several months. Please, keep the Tao-carrying artifact. When someone wants to go, I'll ask them to bring it to me. Upon hearing this, Xing Hui's heart skipped a beat. May I ask a question? What level has Master Tsangzhen's personal space reached? The Master of Tsangzhen glanced at Qing Su. Kid, your question is indeed very presumptuous, but there's no harm in telling you. Back when heaven was first established, it was me and Song Cheong who ran around everywhere, so our personal spaces were of relatively higher levels. He's reached the 10th level, while I'm still a little short, but I've reached the 8th level. Level 8, Sing Hui's eyes lit up. I have many Dao-carrying artifacts with me. Can I ask Master Tsongzhen to bring the items I need to the eastern wilderness? It's not easy to make me move. You have to prepare items with at least 20 Dao-carrying auras. It's definitely a transaction with at least 20 Dao-carrying auras, Sing Hui said. His words caused Tsongzhen, the venerable master's expression, to become slightly serious. His gaze also started to size Chu Li up. It seems that you have recently made a small fortune. Alright, what do you need to buy? Bring it over and let me take a look. Some divine weapons and armors. Of course, the most important thing is that I want to use the Refining God Pavilion after I hand in enough Dao-carrying auras. Refining God Pavilion? Opening it requires at least 20 Dao-carrying auras. Ordinary people might not be able to afford it. It seems like you're really lucky. As for divine weapons and armors, let me check the prices in the Eastern Wilderness. The prices in the Eastern Wilderness are so high? One Dao-carrying aura can only be exchanged for a level 4 divine weapon? It can't be. Let me see. The organizations in the Eastern Wilderness are deliberately inflating the prices to maintain their rule in the Eastern Wilderness. Otherwise, according to the cultivation level of the Eastern Wilderness, one Dao-carrying aura would be worth at least a level 5 divine weapon. As a member of Heaven Vault, we can even give you a discount of one Dao-carrying aura for a level 6 divine weapon. Master Tsongzhen looked at Sing Hui for a while, then looked up at him and said, "The prices are set by the Chaos Temple and the many Chaos organizations. It's related to the interests of all the Chaos organizations. I can't open the back door for you. If you want to spend one Dao-carrying aura to buy a level 9 divine weapon, you have to come to the Eastern Wilderness personally." Sing Hui nodded. As he joined Heaven Vault, he already knew the truth about the monopolization of many small continents' resources and prices. One Dao-carrying aura could buy a level 8 divine weapon in the Eastern Wilderness. If he joined some big forces, he could even get a level 9 divine weapon at a discount. If he met an almighty who needed Dao-carrying aura, he could even exchange it for a level 10 divine weapon. However, in a small place like the Eastern Wilderness, he had to follow the prices in the Eastern Wilderness. Otherwise, if the prices were raised, people from other big forces would have to pay 10 times or even 100 times more if they wanted to trade for Dao-carrying auras. It was precisely because of that many Chaos organizations had reached a consensus for their own interests. When trading goods, they had to consider the local prices. Even if the price was raised, it could not be raised by too much. The prices in the Eastern Barren Territory have been inflated too much by your local sections. One Taoist connotation can only be exchanged for one 4th level divine weapon. Even if you're a member of the Sky Dome sect, we can only give you a discount of one Taoist connotation for a 5th level divine weapon. Of course, it's still very simple for us to make things easier for you. As for 5th level divine weapons, the lower 5th level ones are 5th level ones, and the upper 5th level ones are also 5th level ones. Here, I'll give you a price list. 5th level divine weapons have 1 Taoist connotation, 5th level armors have 2 Taoist connotations, special 5th level treasures have 3 to 10 Taoist connotations, 6th level divine weapons have 10 Taoist connotations, and so on. After Tsongzhen finished speaking, he asked impatiently, "You can actually afford to spend Dao ripples to go to the Refining God Pavilion. You must have a lot of Dao ripples on you. Do you want to go to the Great Sun Core and cultivate for a while? I can give you a discount that is only available to core members. You only need to pay 10 Dao ripples a month. I can even sell you a portion of golden blood for 3 Dao ripples." 10 Dao ripples a month? 3 Dao ripples of golden blood? Sing Hui was slightly stunned. He had already understood the contribution points required to cultivate at the Great Sun Core in the Sky Dome sect. 100 contribution points a day, which was 1 Tao ripple a day. On the other hand, the price of golden blood was 1,000 contribution points, which was 10 Tao ripples. As Tsang Zhen was a core member, he only needed to pay 1/3 of the price to exchange for these items and use these facilities. That was why it was so cheap. Now that Tsang Zhen was willing to make things easier for him, if he cultivated at the Great Sun Core, it would be equivalent to saving 26 Tao ripples, 26 Tao ripples. This had already exceeded the total number of Tao ripples he had before he became the dragon-slaying island owner. Alright, I'm willing to go. Also, if possible, I would like to apply. Kid, don't be greedy. What's the use of cultivating at the Great Sun Core for a year if you can't make a breakthrough in your cultivation? Tsang Zhen interrupted Tsing Hui. Suddenly, Tsing Hui calmed down. The level of his mental strength had become the biggest problem that limited his cultivation. What he really needed wasn't to cultivate at the Great Sun Core to absorb the essence of the Great Sun, but to refine his mental strength. Only when his mental strength level increased would he have the hope to achieve the unification of spirit and qi. Thank you for enlightening me, Master Tsang Zhen. You're worth teaching. Tsang Zhen nodded his head in satisfaction and took out a jade talisman. Cultivation needs to be done step by step. You don't have to rush to cultivate at the Great Sun Core. You can follow me to the Great Sun Core after you leave the Refinement God Pavilion. I have a list of items that you can purchase here. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. All right. Qing Su answered cautiously. He accepted the jade talisman and split a portion of his consciousness to examine it carefully. There was a huge amount of information in the jade talisman. Moreover, in addition to the items that could be exchanged, there were also some personal items that Tsang Zhen had taken out. However, the items that could catch the eye of Tsang Zhen were all of a high level. Tsing Hui casually glanced at them and knew that unless he came to Infinite Wasteland region, he wouldn't be able to purchase 99% of the items. Cultivating at the Refinement God Pavilion requires 20 Tao rhythms. Cultivating at the Great Sun Core requires 13 Tao rhythms. The number of Tao rhythms that I can use is 55 points. After a while, Qing Su chose a high-grade 6th-grade God artifact that could be exchanged for 10 Wei's presents. A while later, he looked at a high-grade 6th-grade armor. Golden Flame Armor. This armor had been infused with stellar energy, and it could greatly increase the burning and annihilating effects of stellar energy. The majority of attacks that struck the armor would be annihilated by the flames, and even the enemy would be injured by its annihilating properties. To put it simply, if a boxing expert's fist hit the golden flame armor, the stellar energy attached to the gloves would be annihilated, and the gloves themselves would be annihilated. Even the boxing expert's arm would be burned, and there was a possibility that it would be annihilated. Although in terms of defense it was only comparable to a 5th-level upper-grade armor, the fire attribute wasn't good at defense. He was satisfied with this effect. 15 Tao rhythms left. Tsing Hui calculated and looked down. However, among the divine weapons, there was nothing that caught his eye. In the end, he had to make do with a treasure that was related to speed. Just as he was about to make do, a special 6th-grade treasure that belonged to Zhangzhen the Exalted Cultivator attracted his attention. Yang Devouring Bead? Tsing Hui took a closer look at the characteristics of the Yang Devouring Bead. It was a 6th-level upper-grade treasure, a replica of the Xian Yang Bead. After it was activated, it would form an enchantment that would be immune to fire damage of level 60 and below. It would also reduce fire damage of level 60 and above. Chapter 155. This Treasure. Tsing Hui's eyes lit up slightly. He originally planned to buy the 4th layer of the Great Sun Golden Crow technique if he really couldn't buy a suitable treasure. Although the price of the 1st layer was higher, He wouldn't be stuck in the spirit and chi unification stage because he didn't have a cultivation method. But now, with this treasure, the threat of the Jin Wu religion's attacks would be greatly reduced. In addition, the Hunyuan Heaven sect would soon join forces with the Jin Wu religion and the Green Lotus Sword sect to wipe out the overseas forces. He might be able to take advantage of a Jin Wu religion's expert who cultivated the Great Sun Golden Crow technique to obtain the follow-up cultivation method of the Great Sun Golden Crow technique from him. 20 Taoist rhymes. Tsing Hui glanced at the price. It was beyond his expectations. However, there was still some time before he went to the core of the Great Sun. During this time, he would think of a way. He might even sell the high-grade 5th Order Crimson Dragon Sword in his hand. He might be able to obtain a treasure that contained 5 Taoist rhymes. He immediately made a decision. Venerable Master, this is the item I want to buy. Let me see. Venerable Master Tsongjun took the jade booklet and glanced at it. He couldn't help but be surprised. It seems that you really made a small fortune. The value of the transaction this time is almost at the level of a chaotic level. Even I would have to spend decades to accumulate such a value of Taoist rhymes. I naturally can't compare with Venerable Master. Well, when do you want it? I'll find time to send it to you. Naturally, the sooner the better. The sooner the better. Venerable Master Tsongjun moved his body slightly. Considering that he would have to borrow Tsing Hui's cultivation at the core of the Great Sun in the future to meet his lover, he still smiled and said, "Okay, give me your spiritual imprint. I'll go over now. Anyway, there doesn't seem to be anything important that I need to do recently." "Thank you." Tsing Hui gave a spiritual imprint to Venerable Master Tsongjun. "I'll go get the items you need to exchange for. If I'm fast, I'll be at your location in half an hour. Go and wait." Tsing Hui nodded and left the Primal Chaos Temple. He left Zhanlong City and stopped at a small mountain not far from Zhanlong City. It wasn't that Tsing Hui was worried about the people in Dragon Slaying City. Rather, it was just that the dispersal of these top-tier experts' avatars would cause far too much of a commotion. Even the weakest of avatars would cause sand and stones to fly everywhere. He didn't wish for the abnormalities in his residence to arouse the suspicions of many cultivators. If that happened, they would associate him with the Son of Chaos and cause trouble for him. In less than half an hour, Tsing Hui's heart skipped a beat. In the next moment, in the void in front of him, a spiritual pressure that was not that strong gradually condensed. Immediately after, the wind and clouds surged, and the Yuan Qi within a radius of several hundred meters was attracted by him, forming a gale. In the center of the gale, Zhongjun, who was completely condensed from Yuan Qi, gradually took shape. I can't help but have a headache when I go back." Zhongjun rubbed his forehead and said, "Every time I use the avatar technique, even if it's an ordinary avatar without any cultivation, it's equivalent to splitting my mind. For a long time, my mind will wither and I won't be able to concentrate on cultivation. It's easy to be distracted when doing things. Once a great enemy comes, because of my poor mental state, I won't be able to use 60% of my cultivation. If it weren't for the fact that you traded for more than 50 Dao rhymes, I really wouldn't have made this trip. Thank you for your hard work, Zhongjun. Nuo, your items." Zhongjun didn't say much to Tsing Hui. He directly took out a treasured sword that was quite similar to the Crimson Dragon Sword and a set of armor that seemed to be burning with flames. "Golden Crow Sword, Golden Flame Armor, take a look." Tsing Hui took the Golden Crow Sword in his hand and poured his true chi into it. Suddenly, the Golden Crow Sword burst out with dazzling flames, and a Golden Crow shadow actually appeared. Its compatibility with his true chi was not inferior to the Crimson Dragon Sword that was completely made by him. Although the Crimson Dragon Sword was completely made by him, the materials used might not be compatible with his Golden Crow true chi. Even if there was no barrier between him and the sword itself, there was a flaw in the true Qi's continuity. Although the Golden Crow sword in front of him was not made by him, it was completely made for his Golden Crow true Qi. With its length compensated, it was even more convenient for him to use it than the Crimson Dragon sword. Holding the Golden Crow sword and sizing it up for a moment, Tsing Hui's eyes immediately turned to the Golden Flame armor. The Golden Flame armor was said to be an armor, but in fact it was like a ball of burning flames, and even the shape of the armor could not be seen. Tier 4 armors could already be merged with Gangqi, and the Tier 6 Golden Flame armor was even more so. As Tsing Hui poured his true Qi into the Golden Flame armor, the Golden Flame armor was like mercury, and completely merged with his true Qi. Then, along with the true Qi, it returned to his body, and turned into a cluster of burning flames that stayed in his body. Then, with a thought, his Gangqi was generated, and the surface of his Gangqi was immediately covered with a layer of golden flames. This layer of golden flames was the power of annihilation contained in the Golden Flame armor. With this layer of power of annihilation, ordinary Gangqi cultivators, even if they were spirit Qi cultivators, without the help of divine weapons, would be burned by this layer of golden flames before their attacks could even get close to his body. Well, what's so exciting about a Tier 6 armor? This is a real treasure. Kid, you have a good eye. Song Zhen took out the Yang Devouring Bead, and said with some nostalgia, "The Yang Devouring Bead is an imitation of the Dazzling Sun Bead, but this one is not. This treasure was obtained when I was exploring with those old guys in the Firmament Realm. At that time, in our minds, this Yang Devouring Bead was a real divine object. Later on, when we obtained the even more amazing Dazzling Sun Bead, we used this Yang Devouring Bead as a blueprint and imitated a batch of similar treasures. And this Yang Devouring Bead gradually faded from the stage of history, and was only treated as a souvenir that I occasionally miss. I didn't expect you to have such a good eye to be able to pick it out from my hundreds and thousands of collections." After saying this, Song Zhen looked at Tsing Hui with a faint trace of approval in his eyes. However, what he did not know was that Tsing Hui did not even look at those collections above Tier 7, because he knew that he could not afford them. And with Song Zhen's status and strength, how many items below Tier 7 could he possibly have? It was not strange for Tsing Hui to pick out the Yang Devouring Bead at a glance. Here you go. The biggest feature of the Yang Devouring Bead is that it relies on devouring fire attribute genuine Qi to operate. The higher the amount of fire attribute genuine Qi it devours, the better the immunity to fire attribute attack. In short, as long as you start it up, you almost don't need to spend any genuine Qi. As long as you wear it, you can be immune to fire attribute attacks below Tier 60. Of course, there is a limit to the immunity effect of the Yang Devouring Bead. Although it can also weaken fire attribute attacks above Tier 60, once it suffers too much damage, it will be damaged. Among the batch of Yang Devouring Beads we imitated, several were damaged because they withstood several fire attribute genuine Qi attacks above Tier 70. Tsing Hui nodded. "I will use it carefully." "Good, the deal is done. I have to go back and rest. I will be dispirited for a long time. Fortunately, I have always been kind to others. Otherwise, it would be terrible if enemies came to kill me at this time." As Master Song Zhen spoke, he waved his hand. Immediately, his incarnation dissipated, and a violent storm of primordial Qi swept out. Immediately, the sand and stones on the peak of the small mountain were sent flying. Even some small trees that were relatively close to the peak were uprooted. Tsing Hui took the Golden Crow sword and Golden Flame armor back to Dragonjon City, and then re-entered the Chaos Temple. Every time a cultivator entered the Chaos Temple, they would appear in their own personal space. Those who did not have personal spaces would appear in the main hall of the Chaos Temple. Tsing Hui quickly arrived at the mountain where the Refining God Pavilion was located in the Sky Dome realm. The so-called Refining God Pavilion was actually a 10-story tall pagoda. This pagoda was a strange item that the Sky Dome Realm leader exchanged from the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. It was said that the price was extremely high. It was one of the few treasures in the entire Sky Dome realm that was on par with the core of the sun. There was a large hall outside the Refining God Pavilion. At this moment, there were many people gathered in groups of 3 to 5 in the hall. Xing Hui glanced at them and did not pay attention to them. He went straight to the application area of the Refining God Pavilion. Just as he was about to reach the application area, a voice rang out, "Miss Pak Hui." Xing Hui turned around and saw a handsome man in white clothes greeting him. Xing Hui thought for a moment and immediately remembered this person's identity, Miss Xia. It was a somewhat awkward title. Not long ago, Xing Hui met this person in Nalan Fei's personal space. This person, Jin Yu and Nalan Fei seemed to be working together to gather 20 Daos and open the Refining God Pavilion to temper their souls. "Miss Pak Hui, are you here to apply to enter the Refining God Pavilion?" "That's right. Opening the Refining God Pavilion requires 20 Daos, which is not a small number. It usually requires several people to form a team. If Miss Pak Hui can't find a suitable team, why don't you come with us? We only have 3 people in our team, so there's no harm in adding Miss Pak Hui." Xia Tian smiled. Xing Hui was surprised by Xia Tian's enthusiasm, but he still said, "No need. The Daos I've accumulated over the years are just enough to open the Refining God Pavilion." "Is that so?" Xia Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. "I was rash. Then, I wish Miss Pak Hui a great improvement in her cultivation." "Thank you for your auspicious words. Miss Qing Yu and I are good friends. Since Miss Qing Yu and Miss Pak Hui have a close relationship, we are relatives and are equivalent to family. We should interact more." Xing Hui immediately understood. Xia Tian probably had his eyes on Nalan Fei. Making friends with him was just a way to save the country. However, Xing Hui glanced at Xia Tian. This person had reached the 6th level of the longevity realm and cultivated a divine-grade battle body. His future was limitless. With his identity, what kind of woman could he not have? Why did he have a soft spot for Nalan Fei? Although Nalan Fei's appearance and temperament were excellent, he did not think that she was worth the attention of Xia Tian, a 6th level of the longevity realm with unlimited potential. There shouldn't be anything on Aunt Nalan that Xia Tian covet. Maybe Xia Tian really fell in love with Aunt Nalan at first sight. Xing Hui pondered for a moment and did not think much about it. He just replied, "If there's a chance, Pak Hui will visit. Then I'll be waiting for you." Xia Tian smiled and nodded. Xing Hui has completed a comprehensive change of equipment and is preparing for the 4-nation joint sweep. Please recommend and support. Chapter 156. Xing Hui arrived in front of the Refining God Pavilion and handed a jade token to the guard. This was the token that Zhongzhen Exalted Master gave him after he gave him the item that contained 20 years of Tao. The guard checked for a moment and quickly said, "Currently, the Refining God Pavilion is still in use, and there is still an application for the Refining God Pavilion waiting. You have to wait for 42 days before you can enter the Refining God Pavilion to temper your mind. The duration is 1 month. You can arrange it yourself. Do you want to wait in line or choose to open the Refining God Pavilion when you have time?" There's another application. Xing Hui estimated that it was Xia Tian, Jin Yu, and Nalan Fei. "I choose to wait in line." "Good. Give me your identity token." The guard accepted the identity medallion from Qing Su and handed it back after keying in some information. "In 42 days, you can directly come find me with your identity medallion to open the Refining God Pavilion. I won't be waiting for you after that." Xing Hui nodded. After completing the application, he left the Sky Dome realm. 42 days left, Xing Hui muttered to himself. Unwilling to waste any more time, he summoned Madame Zhu Yu. From today onwards, use the soul-sucking bell with all your might and attack me. Yes. Madame Zhu Yu naturally knew Tsing Hui's plan and respectfully agreed. In the following days, with the help of Madame Zhu Yu's soul-sucking bell, Tsing Hui's mind was tempered again and again. In the beginning, the effects were obvious. In just 3 short days, his mental strength had increased from the 47th to the 48th level. However, as his mental strength reached the 48th level, the effects of the soul-drinking bell clearly decreased drastically. He only managed to push his mental strength to the 49th level after an entire month, and in the following days, the effects of the soul-drinking bell decreased once more. Qing Su tried to calculate it slightly and discovered to his surprise that it would take him 5 or 6 years at the very least to reach the 50th level of mental strength. Raising one spiritual level in 5 to 6 years wasn't slow, but it definitely wasn't fast either. However, to Tsing Hui, who was pressed for time, this was unacceptable. In another 2 days, it will be the deadline to apply for the Refinement God Pavilion. The soul-absorbing bell's tempering effect on the mind can only be considered ordinary. I only hope that the effect of the Refinement God Pavilion, which costs 20 Taoist rhymes in the Sky Dome to use for a month, will not disappoint me. Tsing Hui waved his hand and dismissed Madame Dogwood. Island Master. Not long after Madame Dogwood left, Dan Taiying hurriedly arrived outside Tsing Hui's courtyard. There's news about the person you asked me to keep an eye on. The person I asked you to keep an eye out for. Tsing Hui paused for a moment, then immediately thought of something. Dragon Shadow? Dragon Shadow's cooperation with a powerhouse suspected to be Ling Yu had caused Blazing Glory to suffer a huge setback. Not only had his chi been crippled, but the tens of thousands of supreme-grade fire spirit stones that he had brought to the 100 Seas City for trade had all been taken away by the two of them. Tsing Hui had always kept this matter in mind. Considering that Dragon Shadow seemed to be frequently active overseas, he had instructed Dan Taiying to keep an eye out for Dragon Shadow. He had been prepared to not receive any news for a long time, but who would have thought that Dragon Shadow would appear in the Shaoyang Ocean City in just a few months? Yes, that's him. He appeared in the Shaoyang Ocean City 3 days ago and is still there. Is there anyone traveling with him? I haven't found anyone yet, but he seems to be waiting for someone to trade with. Alright, Tsing Hui replied. I'll make a trip to the Shaoyang Ocean City. However, he had no choice but to suppress his thoughts for a moment. I'll be using the Refining God Pavilion in 2 days. It's not a good time to go out, considering that Dragon Shadow's cultivation was at the late stage of the unison of Divine Qi realm when he betrayed Dawn. Even if Yun Tao and Madame Zhu Yu worked together, they probably wouldn't be able to do anything to him. He had no choice but to suppress this matter. Pass down my orders. Keep an eye on him for now and don't alert him. When I finish my cultivation in a month, I'll make him understand the price he has to pay for swallowing tens of thousands of supreme-grade fire spirit stones. Yes, I'll make the arrangements right away. Dan Taiying replied respectfully. Your father hasn't broken through to the unison of Divine Qi realm yet? Tsing Hui asked. There were too few experts on dragon-slaying island. My father has received your favor and become a son of chaos. His comprehension has been greatly enhanced, and he's currently comprehending the mysteries of the unison of Divine Qi realm. He's currently adjusting his condition and will probably break through to the unison of Divine Qi realm in the next month. Good. Although when you, Madame Zhu Yu, Hei Yan, and Yi Shao aren't high-ranking sons of chaos, they've inherited 2 or 3 sons of chaos. I'll bestow them to your father and Wu Yu. I hope they won't disappoint me. Tsing Hui said slowly. The 4 sons of chaos slots were given to Dan Taiying, Wu Yu, Dan Taiyu, and Xian Long's father, Long Shao. Tsing Hui didn't have high hopes for Dan Taiyu and Long Shao. He was merely giving them an opportunity. After all, Dan Taiyu had saved his life, and Long Zhao's son, Xian Long, had chosen to lurk outside the Hunyuan Heaven sect to gather information for him. Although he hadn't sent any useful information over the past few days, he could be considered loyal. Xing Hui simply gave one of the Sons of Chaos slots to Long Shao, allowing him to break through to the unison of True Qi realm. It was a reward for his son, Xian Long, Island Master. Please give my father and Chief Steward Wu a little more time. I believe that they only lack cultivation resources and opportunities. Island Master, you've provided them with all your strength. It won't be long before the two of them will advance to the stage of oneness of divine qi and serve you again. Okay, go. Don't let Long Ying escape. Yes. Dan Taiying acknowledged and left. 2 days passed quickly. When the time limit was up, Xing Hui arrived outside the Sky Dome Realm's Refining God Pavilion and waited in advance. At the same time, Xia Tian and Jin Yu, who were using the Refining God Pavilion, were also waiting. The two were surprised to see Xing Hui arrive. Xia Tian seemed to have thought of something and looked at Xing Hui in surprise. Miss Pak Hui, are you going to enter the Refining God Pavilion? Xing Hui nodded. Alone? Don't tell me you don't have a team? Jin Yu's beautiful eyes widened, constantly sizing up Xing Hui. I was lucky to obtain some Dao-carrying items. That's why I was able to enjoy the Refining God Pavilion alone for a month. Young man, you have a bright future. I have high hopes for you. When will you bring me into the Refining God Pavilion? Jin Yu's eyes narrowed slightly as she smiled at Xing Hui. Next time, if there's a chance, I'll definitely call Miss Jin Yu. Miss, you're too distant. Although our Sky Dome realm is called the Primal Chaos Organization, it's actually equivalent to a sect. Since I entered the Sky Dome realm earlier than you, the two of us might as well call each other senior and junior brother. Junior brother Pak Hui, what do you think? Xing Hui saw that Jin Yu had already called him, so he didn't care about this small problem. As she wished, he called out, Senior Sister Jin Yu. Haha, in the future we should keep in touch. In the future, if you cultivate to the Saint Realm and want to come to Heaven Wasteland, you must come find me. I will definitely do my best as a host. I will. Seeing that Jin Yu had easily improved her relationship with Xing Hui, Xia was about to speak, but at this moment, with a flash of light, Nalan Fei's figure appeared in the hall outside the Refining God Pavilion. Seeing Xing Hui, Jin Yu, and Xia, Nalan Fei was slightly startled. She immediately stepped forward and asked, What are you guys talking about? We're talking about when you'll come to Heaven Wasteland so that we can have a chance to receive you. Xia said with a smile, her smile filled with the aura of a spring breeze. It's still early, at least a few decades. However, for us cultivators, a few decades won't take long. As long as we persevere in cultivation and don't encounter any accidents on the way, one day we'll be able to condense true essence and cultivate to the Saint Realm. We'll truly meet in Heaven Wasteland. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Xia said with a smile. Alright, junior brother Pak Hui, hurry up and go. 20 Dao rhymes can only open the Refining God Pavilion for 30 days. Time is very precious, don't miss it. Jin Yu urged. Xing Hui nodded and said, Then I'll take my leave. With that, he walked towards the guards outside the Refining God Pavilion. It seems that this junior brother Pak Hui is very rich. Xia looked at Xing Hui's departing figure and said thoughtfully. Nalan Fei was also surprised that Xing Hui could open the Refining God Pavilion by himself. However, considering that Xing Hui had asked her about the Dark Night not long ago, she understood something. Pak Hui's opportunity is better than mine. In terms of potential, she's probably above me. However, we don't need to envy others. Everyone has their own path. As long as we persevere, there's hope to see the scenery of the peak. Jin Yu has a good attitude. Alright, we've just experienced the cultivation of the Refining God Pavilion and need to go into seclusion to consolidate. Let's not gather here and chat. Quickly go back into seclusion. All right. This is Xia Xia's good intentions, Jin Yu said with a smile. Nalan Fei also smiled. We're now in the golden age of cultivation. Cultivation is more important. Yes, cultivation is more important. Let's go back into seclusion. The few of them chatted for a while more before returning to their respective places. At this time, Xing Hui was also led towards the Refining God Pavilion by the guards. The Refining God Pavilion contains the sword intent, fist intent, saber intent, and spear intent inscribed by countless experts in Heaven's vault. It is used to temper the mind of cultivators, and the Refining God Pavilion's function is to protect your mind. No matter what kind of impact your mind receives, it will always be able to prevent your true soul from dispersing. Moreover, there is a large amount of primordial spirit qi in the Refining God Pavilion, which is extremely effective in healing mental injuries. Even if your mind is severely damaged, you will be able to recover quickly. In fact, the reason why the Refining God Pavilion requires 20 Tao rhymes is because the primordial spirit qi is very expensive. 20 Tao rhymes is actually only enough to maintain the balance of the Refining God Pavilion. The guards led Xing Hui to the Refining God Pavilion, explaining in detail to Xing Hui along the way. Primordial spirit qi, Xing Hui had heard of this before. It was indeed extremely precious and was often priceless. It was monopolized by large organizations. There are dozens of treasures in the Refining God Pavilion that contain martial intent. After you enter, activate them with your martial intent. Those treasures will naturally exert pressure on you and temper your mind. When you want to rest, withdraw your mind. All right, I won't waste your time. Go in. With that, the guards waved their hands and opened the doors of the Refining God Pavilion. Thank you. Xing Hui bowed and stepped into the Refining God Pavilion. Chapter 157. Hiss. As soon as he set foot in the Refinement God Pavilion, Qing Su immediately felt like he had established a mysterious connection with the Refinement God Pavilion, as if he had become one with it. At the same time, he felt extremely happy mentally. The entire Refining God Pavilion was filled with a faint purple fog. This purple fog was the extremely precious primordial spirit qi. With this primordial spirit qi, one's mental energy could be quickly recovered. In addition, the cultivator's mental energy was integrated with the Refining God Pavilion, allowing one to squeeze out the limits of one's mental energy without worrying about a mental breakdown. Xing Hui carefully sensed the magical effects of the primordial spirit qi on his divine soul. Only then did he carefully examine the Refining God Pavilion. Just as the guard had said, the Refining God Pavilion was filled with a large number of items. These items were either swords, sabers, spears, or jade armor. They were all different. Each item contained the martial will of a certain top-notch almighty. Xing Hui scanned through them one by one. There were a total of 12 divine weapons that contained sword will. Among them, there were 2 divine weapons that contained sword will that was vast and magnificent, like the sun in the sky, shining in all directions. Xing Hui carefully looked at the descriptions of these 2 divine weapons. He immediately stopped in front of a golden sword. This was the divine weapon of one of the 4 great founders of the Heaven Vault Empire, who was also the core provider of the sun, Zhu Zhao exalted. Zhu Zhao was the Zhu Sun, or the Zhu Dragon, the true god of the sun. Unlike the Golden Crow, there was a corresponding divine beast called Netherglow. However, compared to the divine beast Torch Dragon, Netherglow was even more mysterious. If the existence of the Torch Dragon was traceable, then Netherglow had become a legend long before the Divine Wilderness era. I didn't expect Zhu Zhao Exalted to awaken the Zhu Dragon bloodline. When I have the chance in the future, I can read his cultivation note. Xing Hui muttered to himself. However, although he cultivated both the Aurora Dragon bloodline and the Golden Crow bloodline, the Crimson Yang Qi condensed from the Aurora Dragon bloodline was inferior to the Blazing Golden Crow bloodline. It was not as useful as the Golden Crow bloodline in a fight, so the Crimson Yang Qi that he had naturally awakened was surpassed by the Golden Crow bloodline. In terms of offense, the Great Sun Golden Crow technique is obviously more suitable. In order to prevent the Torch Dragon bloodline from gradually deteriorating and eventually being devoured by the Great Sun Golden Crow, from today onwards, in terms of mental tempering, I will use the Torch Dragon's divine soul as the main focus. With the Torch Dragon's divine soul as the foundation, I will comprehend exalted Jinzhao's sword will to temper my mental spirit. Then, I will use the Golden Crow's divine soul to refine my qi and cultivate the Great Sun Golden Crow technique for external combat. Immediately, Xing Hui sat cross-legged under the divine weapon of Reverend Zhu Zhao. A sword intent directly shot into the divine weapon left behind by Reverend Zhu Zhao, activating the sword intent within. Boom! The moment esteemed being Candlelight's sword intent was activated, a terrifying light that was so dazzling that it could almost destroy one's mind exploded in his spiritual world. For a moment, his vision was filled with endless light, and everything that entered his eyes was white. In this vast expanse of whiteness, the meaning of life, space, and time seemed to have been erased. Because of the existence of reference objects, people knew the meaning of space, time, and their own lives. Once the surroundings turned into a white void, there was no object, no taste, no sound, and no sense of perception. Humans could not tell whether they were human or not. They could not distinguish the meaning of space, and could not understand the concept of time. Time flew by. In this white and nothingness, Xing Hui felt that the meaning of his existence was completely exiled. This kind of nothingness, where there was no up, down, around, past, or present, was far more painful than being confined. Gradually, he began to become irritable. He wanted to shout, but there was no object to transmit his sound waves. He wanted to destroy wantonly, but there was no object to transmit his destructive power in the white nothingness. He ran forward, backward, and recklessly, but without any reference. He couldn't even tell if he was running or if he was standing still, or if what was running was his mind or his body. After an unknown period of time, a terrifying roar exploded in his spiritual world. In the next moment, the environment of the Refinement God Pavilion appeared in his senses. However, even though his surroundings had become the Refinement God Pavilion, Xing Hui's eyes were still unfocused. He stared blankly in front of him, as if he could not sense the outside world. It was only when the purple mist-like primordial spirit's qi continuously seeped into his spiritual world and healed his mental injuries that he suddenly shuddered. He could not help but reveal a trace of fear in his eyes. He understood, just now, he had a mental breakdown. However, due to the special environment of the Refinement God Pavilion, the moment he had a mental breakdown, he forcefully withdrew from comprehending Reverend Zhu Zhao's sword intent. Phew! Xing Hui let out a long breath and relaxed his mind to his heart's content. He guided the primordial spirit's qi to heal his mental injuries. After a long time, he finally regained his senses. There was a trace of fear in his eyes when he glanced at Reverend Zhu Zhao's divine weapon. However, the fear did not last for long before he forcefully suppressed it. Reverend Zhu Zhao's sword intent, it was very strange. It did not have the blazing fury of the Great Sun Golden Crow, nor did it have the vast brilliance of Sword Master Bai Heng's sword intent. What it brought to him was an impact that isolated his senses. Yes, it isolated his senses. The power brought about by the sword intent made him unable to sense himself, space, or time. It was simply unprecedented. However, for some reason, he felt that the sword intent was extremely compatible with his Torch Dragon bloodline. In fact, the compatibility was much higher than the comprehension that Sword Master Bai Heng left in his spiritual world. It was as if the sword intent left behind by Reverend Zhu Zhao was the correct direction for the evolution of the Torch Dragon bloodline. After a while, Xing Hui's eyes gradually became determined. He split his mind again and activated Reverend Zhuzhao's sword intent. In the Sky Dome realm, a man in a long robe who looked to be in his 30s or 40s seemed to have sensed something. He paused in his deduction of the chessboard. Zhuzhao. In front of him, an old man who was also deducing the chessboard spoke. At the same time, he placed a chess piece. What can distract you? Nothing. It's just that the light coagulation sword that I left in the Refinement God Pavilion has been activated. Light coagulation sword? The old man was slightly stunned. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. A strange expression appeared on his face. Is it the path that you left behind back then? Yes. Zhuzhao said with a trace of regret on his face. When the Sky Dome realm was first established, danger was everywhere. In order to cultivate the divine ability as soon as possible, I had no choice but to give up this path that seemed more promising to me. I chose to follow the old path of the predecessors and charge into the divine ability realm. All these years, I've been very regretful, so I condensed my incomplete path into sword intent and injected it into the light coagulation sword. I left it in the Refinement God Pavilion to wait for the fated person. Unfortunately, there are very few people who have awakened the Torch Dragon bloodline, and those who are willing to find another way are even rarer. For more than 1,000 years, even though there have been people who have tried to comprehend the sword intent in the light coagulation sword, very few of them have been able to persevere. The old man sighed when he heard Zhu Zhao mention this matter. You are the one with the highest talent among us. You are also the #1 expert in our Sky Dome Empire. You are the stabilizing force of our domain. Without you, our Sky Dome Empire would not be what it is today. With your talent, if you continue to walk down that path, you might really have the hope of opening up an unprecedented cultivation path. Let's not talk about the past. Let's think about how to solve this chessboard. Only by solving this chessboard can we enter that sacred cave. Zhuzhao said. The old man nodded, and the two of them once again focused on the chessboard in front of them. However, after half a day, Zhuzhao's figure paused again, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The old man's heart skipped a beat as if he had thought of something. He suddenly waved his hand, and the image of the god refining pavilion immediately appeared in front of him. As the master of the Sky Dome realm, he had the ability to see through every part of the Sky Dome realm. He actually activated your light coagulation sword for the second time? In the past 1,000 years, there have been 14 people who tried to comprehend the sword intent of the light coagulation sword. However, after knowing how strange and terrifying the sword intent of the light coagulation sword was, only 3 people tried to comprehend it again. He's the 4th? Zhuzhao nodded. Let me see. The old man, Sky Dome Master, quickly looked up Tsing Hui's information. After a short while, he seemed to have found something interesting. Zhuzhao, guess what I found? This little guy called Pak Hui joined the Sky Dome realm from Zhizhao's hands, and then Tsang Zhen entered him. However, according to the records, he awakened the bloodline of the Golden Crow. Dual Meridian Cultivator? Zhu Zhao frowned. Dual Meridian Cultivator is not bad, but without enough resources, it won't be easy to cultivate. Since he's a member of our Celestial Dome sect, it's only right for us elders to give him some guidance. Zhu Zhao, you have the fewest disciples among us, only 4. I can see that he has cultivated 2 divine beast bloodlines and cultivated 2 divine grade Gangqis. His potential isn't weak. Do you want to take him in? The path that you didn't take back then might appear on him. Sky Dome Master said. Zhu Zhao looked at Tsing Hui in the image and pondered for a moment before saying, let's wait and see. If he really wants to walk down this path, I'll find an opportunity to personally test his character. If his character passes, haha, that's good. Don't mention this to others for now, especially Tsang Zhen. Understood? Haha, if Tsang Zhen knows, then all of us in the Sky Dome realm will know. At that time, won't we be causing trouble for this little guy? Don't worry, I understand. Zhu Zhao nodded. At this time, Xing Hui did not know that because he kept using the light-condensing sword to temper his spirit, he had caught the attention of Zhu Zhao Master. He was still facing the torture of the light-condensing sword again and again. 1 day, 3 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. Xing Hui activated the sword essence of the light-condensing sword again and again, and then his spirit broke down again and again. A month's time quietly passed. Chapter 158. Time, space, and even life are just corresponding entities. If there is no corresponding object, space can't be called time. If there is no corresponding object, time can't be called time. Even life itself can't be called life if there is no corresponding object for reference and comparison. Xing Hui was enlightened. This was the answer he obtained after tempering the sword intent of the light condensation sword for an entire month. Now a month had passed. Xing Hui glanced at the mental strength level of his humanoid model. 53rd level. It had increased by 4 levels. 4 levels in a month. The efficiency was not bad, even if he had to pay 20 Dao runes. However, what really made Xing Hui's trip worthwhile was the many insights he obtained when his sword intent constantly collided with the sword intent of the light condensation sword. These insights gave him a new direction for the future cultivation of the Torch Dragon bloodline. The Torch Dragon was known as the Great Sun True God. However, under the influence of Sword Master Bai Heng and the Torch Sun Sutra, he actually used the Torch Dragon bloodline as the Golden Crow bloodline. He only valued the Crimson Sun True Qi condensed from the Torch Dragon bloodline. However, in reality, in terms of destructive power, the Crimson Sun True Qi was inferior to the Golden Crow True Qi, and its power could not be compared to the Golden Crow True Qi. With the Golden Crow True Qi, the Crimson Sun True Qi condensed from the Torch Dragon bloodline had become a little awkward. The insights brought by the light condensation sword gave him a new direction for the evolution of the Torch Dragon bloodline. A direction about time and space. If the Torch Dragon bloodline could really evolve in that direction, he believed that the magic of the Torch Dragon bloodline would not be inferior to the Golden Crow bloodline in the end. In fact, it was even better. Finished cultivating? Outside the God Refinement Pavilion, the guard looked at Xing Hui and said with a smile, "The God Refinement Pavilion is indeed worthy of its reputation," Xing Hui said. After a moment, he thought of the mysterious stone pillar in the ancestral land of the 10,000 Swords Mountain. A mental strength level of 53 should be able to give it a try. However, for safety's sake, I wonder if the Primordial Spirit Qi in the Refining God Pavilion can be sold? Yuan Spirit Qi has always been priceless. We don't have a lot of Yuan Spirit Qi in the Heaven's Dome Pavilion either. Even though it usually costs 10 Dao Rhymes per square meter in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, there might not be anyone willing to sell it even if you raise the price to 15 Dao Rhymes. When Xing Hui heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Although Yuan Spirit Qi can only be exchanged in the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion, there are some cave dwellings from the Divine Desolate Era that have been passed down. If you really need it urgently, you can try those ancient cave dwellings. If you are lucky, Yuan Spirit Qi, storage rings, divine weapons, ancient techniques, blood essence of divine beasts, you can have everything you want. As the guardian spoke, a smile appeared on his face. My younger sister is a son of chaos who specializes in raising the luck attribute. When we bring her along when we go out on a treasure hunt, not only will the danger be greatly reduced, but we'll also be able to return with a full harvest every time. I don't intend to take the lucky route. When the guard heard this, he shrugged slightly with a helpless expression on his face. Seeing this, Xing Hui didn't waste any more time. After bidding farewell to the guardian, he left the Chaos Temple. After cultivating in the Refinement God Pavilion for a month, He needed time to consolidate his foundation. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. In these 10 days, not only did he completely consolidate his mental state, but he also completely recovered his mental state. Ask Dan Taiying to wait for me in the living room, Sing Hui said to the door. Yes. The guard quickly left after receiving the order. When Sing Hui came to the living room after tidying himself up, Dan Taiying was already waiting there. When he saw Sing Hui, he hurriedly bowed respectfully. Island Master. Did anything happen on Dragon Slaying Island during this period? Nothing major. My father, on the other hand, finally stepped into the divine energy integration realm half a month ago. Oh? He finally reached the divine energy integration realm. That's good news. When Sing Hui heard this, he nodded slightly. After a while, he continued to ask, "Is Dragon Shadow still under surveillance?" This, Sing Hui frowned. Why? You lost him? Yes. Island Master, please punish me. Dan Taiying hurriedly lowered his head and asked for forgiveness. What exactly happened? About 20 days ago, our subordinate who was in charge of keeping an eye on Dragon Shadow did not make any news. Although we sent 2 groups of people to investigate, one of which was led by 2 spirit-refining cultivators, without exception, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no news from Shaoyang Sea City for the past 10 days. The people who were monitoring Dragon Shadow were discovered? Moreover, the people who were sent out were all captured. Sing Hui muttered to himself. Immediately, he thought of something and his expression sank. The first group of people who were monitoring Dragon Shadow betrayed Dragon Slaying Island. Because of this, the following groups suffered heavy losses. That's most likely the case. It's all my fault for not doing my job well. Qing Su closed his eyes and carefully thought about Dragon Shadow's motives for the series of events. Logically speaking, after Dragon Shadow knew that he was being monitored, he would change his appearance and hide after killing the people who were monitoring him. Why would he stay in Shaoyang Sea City and kill the 2 groups of people sent by Dan Taiying? In the next moment, Sing Hui suddenly thought of something. He needed those people to investigate Dragon Slaying Island. Spirit Refining Realm is already considered high level. Sing Hui's eyes flashed. Our Dragon Slaying Island has been targeted by Dragon Shadow. Dragon Slaying Island has been targeted by Dragon Shadow? Tantai Yin was slightly startled. Even though Long Ying is an expert in the late stage of the Divine Qi Unison realm, the Island Lord killed Wen Yu, He Yen, Yi Shao, and Madame Zhu Yu consecutively. If Long Ying knew that we were looking for him, he should have left as soon as possible. Why would he dare to lay low and attack our Dragon Slaying Island instead? Dragon Shadow alone naturally wouldn't have the courage to attack Dragon Slaying Island. However, if we count the people behind Dragon Shadow, that might not be the case. Sing Hui immediately sorted out his thoughts and said, If I didn't guess wrongly, Dragon Shadow should have already arrived at Dragon Slaying Island. Have any unfamiliar faces come to Dragon Slaying Island recently? This Dragon Slaying Island can be considered a big island in this sea area. Every day there are tens of thousands of people entering and leaving the island. No matter how precise a Spirit Qi Unity cultivator's control of his own strength is, he can't hide his true Qi fluctuation. Therefore, those who are above the Spirit Qi Unity realm and rarely come out, keep an eye on them. Collect all the suspicious information they have. Do it immediately. I want to know how many experts they have. Yes. Dan Taiying's heart trembled. He understood the seriousness of the problem and quickly retreated. The scene of me killing the Dragon Whale Island Master was witnessed by many people. At that time, there were probably people who guessed that I was a high-level son of chaos who had divine arts, plus the series of events that followed, Sing Hui guessed. Dragon Shadow and the others had obviously regarded him as a new prey. If a son of chaos of rank 10 and above could be captured alive and interrogated, it wouldn't be difficult to sell dozens of Taoist rhymes. Just as Tsing Hui was investigating Dragon Shadow's whereabouts, a loud and clear cry suddenly came from the mountainside of a volcano tens of thousands of kilometers inland from Dragon-slaying Island. In the next moment, a dazzling golden crow appeared, emitting the dazzling radiance of the sun. It covered the courtyard at the foot of the mountain and dyed the entire courtyard a golden color. When the golden crow dissipated, a few young women wearing revealing clothes came to the courtyard and sincerely congratulated the beautiful figure in the courtyard. "Congratulations, miss, your earth energy has reached large success. From now on, you will be invincible in the spirit refining realm." The door of the courtyard opened and Lai Wuyang, who was wearing a fiery red dress, strode out of the room. Ruo Ying, Shi Yang, Lan Li. Lai Wuyang's gaze swept across the three women in front of her. These three women were all in the realm of syncretism of spirit and qi, and they had all cultivated spiritual genuine qi. Ever since disciplined King Liesi learned that she had almost died in the coastal waters, he had sent them here to protect her. "Miss, the news you asked us to pay attention to has taken shape." And Lai Wuyang suddenly thought of something and her eyes flashed with shame and anger. "That little thief?" "Yes, that little thief who dared to take advantage of Miss," Ruo Ying said. Losing the Great Sun Golden Crow technique was of great importance. Even if Lai Wuyang was the daughter of the Jin Wu religion's Shakyamuni and had recently become the saintess of the Jin Wu religion, she did not dare to easily leak this matter out. Thus, to the outside world, she only announced that Tsing Hui had taken advantage of her. According to the clues provided by the young miss, we immediately set our sights on Colored Glass Island and deduced that the thief was a guest invited by the island master of Colored Glass Island. His name is Ching Su, but this person called Ching Su is no longer on Colored Glass Island. He went to Dragon Whale Island and killed the island master, becoming the new master of Dragon Whale Island. He changed the name of Dragon Whale Island to Dragon Slaying Island. Dragon Whale Island Master? I seem to have heard of him before. A Spirit Chi Unity Realm Cultivator. This little thief actually has the ability to kill a Spirit Chi Unity Realm Cultivator? That's right. Lai Wuyang's beautiful face carried a chilling coldness. So what if he has the ability to kill a Spirit Chi Unity Realm Cultivator? My divine grade cosmic Chi has reached the large success stage. Ordinary Spirit Chi Unity Realm Cultivators may not be my mat. Thus, even if he has the achievement of killing a Spirit Chi Unity Realm Cultivator, I still have to personally kill him. Otherwise, it will be difficult to dispel the hatred in my heart. Miss, you can't. Dragon Whale Island is 40,000 kilometers away from the sea. With Miss's identity, it's very likely that you will encounter some fugitives. At that time, humph. So what if it's 40,000 kilometers? Lai Wuyang sneered. If I remember correctly, our Jin Wu religion is currently working together with the Hunyuan Heavenly Sect, Green Lotus Sword Sect, and Limitless Sword Sect to conduct a large-scale sweep of the sea, right? Ruo Ying and the others looked at each other and hesitated for a moment before nodding. This is indeed so. All right then, I'll go find Shakyamuni and ask him to influence the direction of the Jin Wu religion's sweep to slightly shift the direction of Dragon Slaying Island. When the time comes, our Jin Wu religion's experts will surround him and make it impossible for him to escape. Chapter 159. In a small town in less than 20 kilometers away from Dragon Slaying City. On this day, 2 new guests arrived. The 2 guests arrived at the inn and went straight to the third room. There, a man dressed in luxurious clothes who looked like a merchant had been waiting for them for a long time. If Yen Huang were here at this moment, he would definitely be able to immediately recognize that this luxuriously dressed man was the traitor Dragon Shadow who had caused Dawn to suffer a great loss of vitality, losing dozens of Taoist rhymes, and losing dozens of Sons of Chaos. In front of him were a young man and a young woman who had just arrived. One was the nominal leader of Dawn, Ling Yu, and the other was also somewhat famous in the circle of sons of chaos in the eastern wasteland, nicknamed Tianbao. You two are finally here. Seeing the two of them, Dragon Shadow smiled. This time, it's a big deal. Dragon Shadow, I rushed over as soon as I heard the news. A son of chaos who is only in the Orochi realm but has divine arts, is this true? Tianbao asked. We've worked together more than once or twice. When have I ever lied to you? I'm just a little curious. Divine arts are the dividing line for sons of chaos. Those who have divine arts and those who don't are two completely different concepts. A son of chaos who has divine arts and is only in the spirit refining realm, who is at least rank 10 and has divine arts, would you have taken action as soon as you found out? Why would you wait for me? After all, although the divine technique can raise a person's cultivation by a realm, it is still lacking by half a notch when compared to a cultivator of that realm. Even if he is at the peak of the spirit refining realm, he is still lacking by a notch when compared to you who is at the late stage of unity of spirit and chi. Peak of spirit refining realm? Our goal this time is indeed to reach the peak of spirit refining realm. Dragon Shadow paused for a moment. However, he's not at the peak of spirit refining realm with ordinary Orochi, but the peak of divine grade Orochi. Divine grade Orochi? Tianbao and Ling Yu's expressions changed. You're saying that he has cultivated divine grade Orochi? Are you sure you're not mistaken? It's divine grade and not divine grade? Ling Yu asked in a deep voice. It's true, it's divine grade Gangqi. Dragon Shadow said, there's no need for me to explain the power of divine grade Gangqi. A person with divine grade Gangqi perfection stage combat strength is not inferior to an ordinary cultivator at the late stage of spirit and chi unification stage. Coupled with the divine technique, it's not difficult for him to match a cultivator at the middle stage of Green Hell Realm. Especially according to my investigation, this kid has a divine weapon in his hand. It's at least a divine weapon of medium level 5, or even a divine weapon of high level 5. In addition, he also has a flying sword that allows him to move freely. Divine tier stellar energy, a son of chaos above the 10th order, a 5th order high-grade divine weapon, and a flying sword. Could it be that this brat is an expert secretly nurtured by some great power? Despite the greed in Celestial Bao's eyes, he remained calm. In their line of work, the most important thing was to have good judgment. Otherwise, once they offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, it would inevitably lead to disaster. That's impossible, Dragon Shadow confidently said. I've already used my own channels of information and the Pavilion of Divination to investigate this boy's background. His name is Zhuo Qingxiu, and he's just a disciple of a remote and small clan. He was originally unknown, but 2 years ago, he suddenly exploded and soared into the sky. Moreover, in just 2 short years, he has cultivated to the realm of perfected divine-grade Gangqi. If my guess is correct, he must have obtained the legacy of a high-ranking son of chaos at that moment and relied on the power of that legacy to achieve his current achievement. Couldn't he have been secretly taken in as a disciple by some great master? That's impossible. After obtaining the inheritance of a son of chaos, that brat became arrogant and arrogant. He considered everyone beneath him and offended many experts. One of them was the primal chaos heaven sect's true disciple, Bai Yu. It was Bai Yu who forced him to leave his home and flee overseas. If he really had some great master backing him, how could he not be able to suppress a true disciple of the primal chaos heaven sect? Very good. Perfect divine grade Gangqi and a 5th order high grade divine weapon. No wonder you feel so helpless. While he's using the divine art, even if the 3 of us work together, we'll only be able to gain the upper hand. Coupled with the fact that he has a flying sword, it won't be easy to ensure that he doesn't escape. Celestial Bao immediately believed Dragon Shadow's words. That's right. So, I'll have to trouble your Excellency's celestial bow with your treasure wheel boundary. As long as your Excellency's celestial bow can trap him while he's using the divine art, once his divine art's time is up, he'll naturally be a turtle in a jar. Celestial Bow realized his own importance and immediately began to return the money. That brat has a 5th-level upper-grade divine weapon, and it can be said to be very sharp. Although my treasure wheel barrier has reached the 6th level, his 5th-level divine weapon and the power of the divine art can still cause damage to my treasure wheel barrier. When the time comes, it will not be a small sum to repair it. Therefore, after we capture this brat alive, I want 60% of his spoils of war, and 60% of the profits from the sale of his primal chaos divine weapon. 60%? Ling Yu's expression turned cold. Your primal chaos grade hasn't reached the 10th order. Although you're at the advanced stage of divine chi unity, even if Tsing Hui's divine art's time is up, you still may not be able to defeat him in a head-on fight. Even if you can win, how can you guarantee that he won't escape and that you'll capture him alive? So, the final victor will still be me. So, you can only take 30% of the profits. Dragon Shadow will provide 30% of the information, and I'll take 40%. 30%? That's impossible. Celestial Bow retorted without even thinking. Without my treasure wheel boundary, how can you survive the time limit of his divine art? What if you guarantee that he won't escape? How about this? Since we're acquaintances, I'll take a step back. I'll take 50%, and the two of you can discuss how to split the remaining 50%. 50% is too much. Ling Yu shook her head. Just as she was about to say something, a voice came from outside. Before you discuss how to split the profits, have you thought about whether I, the person involved, would agree? When the voice rang out, the 3 Divine Chi Unity experts who were discussing how to split the profits in the room immediately paled. Who's there? Sneaking around, get out here. Bang! A moment later, a burst of gang chi erupted, instantly obliterating the wall where the 3 of them were and where the voice had come from. However, before this burst of gang chi could continue its destruction, a wave of energy swept out and dispelled the power that followed. Whoosh! A gentle breeze blew past and blew away the dust. Behind the shattered wall, Qing Su, Madame Zhu Yu, Yun Tao, and Tan Tai Ting, the 3 Unity of Divine Chi Realm experts, slowly stepped into the room. Dawn's traitor, Dragon Shadow. Tsing Hui's gaze immediately fell on Dragon Shadow. He paused for a moment, then turned his gaze to the graceful woman. If I'm not wrong, this should be the leader of Dawn, Lady Feather Moon. 6 years ago, Lady Feather Moon and Lord Dragon Shadow put on a good show, capturing almost all of Dawn's Class 5 and above Sons of Chaos who trusted you. Tsing Hui's words caused Ling Yu's pupils to shrink. In the next moment, her eyes turned cold. It was clear that she was determined to kill Tsing Hui. You're our prey this time, Tsing Hui? Tianbao, on the other hand, fearlessly glanced at Madame Dogwood, Yun Tao, and the others behind Tsing Hui. You think you can fight against us with just these pieces of trash? Who gave you the courage? Blazing Glory has long since pledged allegiance to me and become my subordinate. Dragon Shadow, Ling Yu, the 2 of you crippled his true energy and stole over 10,000 peerless grade fire spirit stones that belonged to me. Today, it's time for you to pay the price. We attack. Before Qing Su had even finished speaking, Ling Yu had already bellowed out. Afterwards, she leapt up, and a slender sword stabbed over like a startled swan. As the sword light tore through space, it actually did not cause any ripples in the air at all, making the attack silent and unpredictable. Ding dong! The moment Ling Yu drew her sword, Madame Dogwood immediately rang the soul-sucking bell in her hand. The sound of the bell spread out, causing Ling Yu's body to falter for a moment. The sword light was also somewhat scattered. Although she immediately got rid of the soul-sucking bell's influence, The trajectory of the sword was clearly displayed in front of Tsing Hui. Clang! The sword light appeared. The moment he drew the green ruined sword, he used the divine technique at the same time. Under the amplification of the divine technique, it was like a scorching sun had appeared behind him, rising up slowly. When it reached its peak, it suddenly exploded. Endless light and heat rushed out in all directions with the explosion of the sun, reducing many of the rooms on the second floor of the inn to ashes in a single moment. As the golden crow sword stabbed out, the scorching sun swept over, forming an aura that felt like the end of the world, like a falling star. Great Sun Golden Crow Technique. Quick. Tianbao. Treasured Wheel Boundary. Ling Yu could sense the suffocating, terrifying power from the green ruin's sword. She bellowed out and attempted to retreat. At the same time, a protective talisman suddenly appeared on her, but it was obliterated by the destructive pressure of the golden crow sword in the next moment. However, this protective talisman was personally created by a blue netherworld realm expert, and it exploded with enough power to stop the golden crow sword in Tsing Hui's hand for a moment. The destructive aura also paused for a moment. Tianbao took advantage of this opportunity to activate his treasured wheel boundary. Immediately, Tsing Hui seemed to be isolated in another dimension. The blazing aura that had destroyed most of the inn disappeared without a trace. Hurry up and finish off these 3 small fries. Then we'll focus on Tsing Hui. Ling Yu shouted to Dragon Shadow beside her. She flew up and was about to rush into Madame Zhuyu, Yun Tao, and Dan Tating to kill them all. However, at this moment Tianbao, who had trapped Tsing Hui in his treasured wheel boundary, seemed to have sensed something. His expression changed drastically. Oh no! This brat's attack is too strong. My treasured wheel boundary can't stop his attack. The sword in his hand is not just a mid-grade 5th level, high-grade 5th level, or even 6th level. 6th level. He's holding a high-grade 6th level divine weapon. My treasured wheel boundary can't trap him anymore. Rip! Accompanied by the sound of silk tearing, a scorching heat wave once again spread through the ruins of the inn. Chapter 160. Tear. The treasure wheel enchantment trapped Tsing Hui for less than a minute before it was forcefully torn apart by Tsing Hui. In terms of defense, the treasure wheel enchantment was not weak. It was a level 6 treasure wheel enchantment, which allowed him to withstand attacks of level 60 for some time. Unfortunately, the Divine Sun Golden Crow skill was overbearing and specialized in attacking. Tsing Hui, who had been enhanced by the divine skill, had already reached level 60. Coupled with the fact that he had the upper level 6 Golden Crow sword in his hand, his attack level was further enhanced. In terms of pure attack power, he had already reached Immortality level 6. Even an Immortality level 6 elite would not dare to take such a terrifying attack head-on, let alone a level 6 treasure wheel enchantment. Tsing Hui tore apart the treasure wheel enchantment with a single strike of his sword. He flew out like a Kuan Pring spreading its wings. In an instant, he was in front of heavenly treasure. The intense friction between the sword and the air caused dazzling sparks to burst out. At the end of the sparks, a golden crow let out a long cry, exuding a suffocating destructive aura. Before the sword arrived, the terrifying aura from the golden crow had already filled heavenly treasure. The level 4 defensive armor on his body spontaneously combusted. He could not help but cry out in pain as the flames burned him. Stop! Seeing that heavenly treasure would be killed by Tsing Hui, Ling Yu did not care about anything else. She roared and activated the divine skill. A majestic and terrifying power burst out from her body, allowing her to break through the barrier of divine chi integration and reach the peak of green netherworld realm. Although the green netherworld realm with the help of the divine skill was slightly weaker than a real green netherworld realm elite, as Jean Ling's sword slashed down, a sharpness that could cut through the void tore through space. Even the golden crow shadow that appeared behind Tsing Hui was torn in half, much less an ordinary cultivator. Feeling the terrifying sharpness behind him that tore through space, Tsing Hui frowned. He had no intention of dodging. The golden crow sword in his hand exploded into a terrifying golden crow that devoured heavenly treasure. Even though heavenly treasure had many defensive treasures on him, he could only let out a shrill cry in the face of the attack that was equivalent to an immortality level 6 elite's attack. He was burned to ashes by the golden crow in a violent explosion. Bastard! Die! While heavenly treasure was being devoured by the golden crow, Ling Yu's furious sword that tore through space struck Tsing Hui's body. The moment the tip of the sword touched him, the gang qi on the surface of Tsing Hui's body emitted dazzling sparks, dissipating 90% of the sharpness that tore through space. Although the remaining 10% tore through Tsing Hui's gang qi and struck his body, it did not cause any substantial damage to him other than leaving a sword mark on his body. Ling Yu's pupils shrank at this sudden turn of events. This is bang. While Ling Yu was stunned, Tsing Hui's golden crow sword turned around and struck the thin sword in Ling Yu's hand. For a moment, the thin sword in Ling Yu's hand emitted dazzling sparks as if it had been hit by a cannonball. Given Ling Yu's status, this thin sword was naturally not an ordinary item. Its grade was the same as Tsing Hui's Crimson Dragon Sword, which was a superior grade 5th stage divine weapon. However, this superior grade 5th stage divine weapon was small and could significantly increase one's attack and sword speed. Its quality was not very good. As it clashed with Tsing Hui's golden crow sword, a crack appeared on it, and a large amount of debris flew out. My void fragmentation sword! A trace of pain flashed across Ling Yu's eyes as she hurriedly retreated. However, how could Tsing Hui, who had sensed Ling Yu's weakness, let go of it so easily? The sword vibrated as he charged forward again. His third-stage sword Dao talent had allowed his understanding of sword techniques to reach the peak of perfection. As he swung his sword, the scorching heat wave and the golden crow's shadow on the tip of the sword sealed off all of Ling Yu's escape routes. She had no choice but to counterattack. However, once she counterattacked, bang! As sparks flew, the void fragmentation sword in Ling Yu's hand, which had a crack on it, suddenly shattered. Half of the sword flew out, and the scorching heat wave that followed behind it twisted it into an unknown location. Ling Yu's heart trembled. When she saw how Qing Su's attack was right behind her, she gritted her teeth and directly leapt up. She actually left his range of attack in a single instance and shot off on her sword. The entire process was as smooth as flowing water and extremely decisive. Ling Yu had awakened the bloodline of the Golden Rock, which was one of the sacred beasts. However, she had been crippled when she was in the Gangqi realm and only cultivated spirit-grade Gangqi. Even so, she still had a unique advantage when it came to flying. Moreover, she had a superior grade 5th stage flying sword. As soon as she left Tsing Hui's attack range, she immediately burst forth with a speed that far exceeded Tsing Hui's imagination. In the blink of an eye, she had broken through the clouds and disappeared from his sight. Her speed was almost twice as fast as when he was flying the green profound sword. I can't catch up. With just a glance, Tsing Hui had already grasped the absolute difference in speed between the two of them. Shaking his head, he turned his gaze to Dragon Shadow. Dragon Shadow was already pale with fright when he saw Ling Yu flee, but when he sensed Tsing Hui's gaze, he retreated without hesitation. At the same time, he summoned his flying sword and prepared to flee on it. But just as he was about to take off, Madame Dogwood's soul-sucking bell rang. The mental assault immediately made Dragon Shadow dizzy, and he nearly fell over on his flying sword. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Tsing Hui took a step forward and soared into the air. At the same time, the golden crow pressed forward with a suffocating heat wave. Before he even drew his sword, the majestic power of the sun had already incinerated Dragon Shadow's Gangqi. Dragon Shadow's eyes flashed with despair when he sensed Tsing Hui's invincible and terrifying aura. He was well aware of the consequences if he, a son of chaos, fell into the hands of another son of chaos. Over the years, he had captured dozens of sons of chaos and forced them to use their primal chaos art. Not a single one of them had come to a good end, and many of them had even suffered a fate worse than death. More than once, he had told himself that if he really were in such a situation, he would not hesitate to commit suicide so that he would not be left with no choice but to beg for death. But now that he was about to be captured by Tsing Hui and had no choice but to commit suicide, he couldn't help but feel pain and hesitation. Suicide? What kind of courage did this require? In this moment of delay, Tsing Hui had already sent a stream of golden crow true energy into Dragon Shadow's body, completely destroying his meridians and true energy. For a moment, Dragon Shadow's face turned ghastly pale. He knew that in his current state, even suicide was an extravagant hope. Before he could continue wallowing in self-pity, he felt a sharp pain in his head, and darkness engulfed him. Island Master, seeing that Tsing Hui had captured Dragon Shadow alive, Yun Tao and Dan Tating stepped forward, guilt flashing in their eyes. Although the two of them had cultivated to the stage of divine chi unification, they were of no use in a battle of this level. Any one of Dragon Shadow, Celestial Treasure, or Ling Yu could easily injure them, especially Ling Yu who had used her divine art. She was unbelievably powerful. If not for Tsing Hui holding her back, she could have killed the two of them in a few breaths of time. "All right, bring them back," Tsing Hui said. He had brought Yun Tao and Dan Tating with him, not expecting them to be of any help. It was just a precaution. Unfortunately, one of them got away. Tsing Hui glanced in the direction that Ling Yu had left in, a hint of regret in his voice. Between Dragon Shadow and Ling Yu was obviously the leader. Although he had captured Dragon Shadow alive, the real treasures were probably with Ling Yu. That one is a 10th level son of chaos, and she has reached the peak of the stage of divine chi unification. It's too difficult to capture her alive. Moreover, she has an upper 5th level flying sword. If she wants to escape, even an immortality stage 6 or prominent divine stage expert may not be able to do anything to her. Madame Dogwood said. Tsing Hui nodded. In terms of value, an upper 5th level flying sword was comparable to a middle 6th level or even an upper 6th level divine weapon. Ling Yu had obviously spent a lot of time in the gray area and was worried that something would happen to her, so she did not hesitate to exchange for an upper 5th level flying sword. In this way, even if she really fell, few people could stop her if she wanted to escape. Tsing Hui went to where Celestial Treasure's corpse was and quickly found a treasure wheel. This treasure wheel was the item that activated the treasure wheel barrier. It was the only treasure left on Celestial Treasure's body. As for the others, they had all been destroyed by Tsing Hui's sword. However, there was a crack on this treasure wheel. If it could not be repaired, this treasure could only be used 3 or 4 more times before it was completely destroyed. This is a good item. If Ling Yu dares to come again, this item will make it impossible for her to return. Tsing Hui put the treasure wheel into his personal space. Dan Tating, I'll leave the aftermath to you. Tan Tai Ting glanced at the group of people who were trembling outside the ruins of the inn and nodded. Tsing Hui, Yun Tao, and Madame Dogwood immediately brought Dragon Shadow back to the Zhanlong City's City Lord Mansion. Once they arrived, Tsing Hui immediately ordered, "Tell Yen Huang to come see me." The guards who received the order retreated. In less than half an incense's time, Yen Huang hurried over. In the past few months, under Tsing Hui's unstinting resources, he had already cultivated his true qi. Although it was not worth mentioning in Zhanlong Island, as a rank 8 son of primal chaos, his potential was much higher than any spirit-refining cultivator in Zhanlong Island. Even Dan Tating, Dan Taiying, and Wu Yu could not be compared to Yen Huang in terms of potential. Yen Huang, I'll leave this person to you. I need all the treasures in his personal space and his primal chaos technique. Xing Hui pointed at Dragon Shadow, who was carried by Yun Tao. Seeing this person, Yan Huang's eyes widened. Hatred flashed in his eyes. Dragon Shadow? After saying that, he seemed to remember the few days when he was captured by Dragon Shadow. His eyes suddenly became cruel. Island Lord, please rest assured. This subordinate will definitely force out all the secrets on him. And go. Chapter 161. After leaving Dragon Shadow's matter to Yan Huang, Xing Hui arrived at the Primal Chaos Temple's Sky Dome realm. For the time being, he had no plans to obtain Yuan Spirit Chi. He could only place his hopes on other treasures in the Sky Dome realm, hoping to buy a treasure that could protect his soul and deal with the sword intent on the mysterious stone pillar of the 10,000 Swords Mountain. Pak Hui. Not long after arriving in the Sky Dome realm, Xing Hui heard Nalan Fei's voice. Qin Yu. You have to be careful. The Hunyuan Heaven Sect, the Limitless Sword Sect, the Green Lotus Sword Sect, the Jin Wu Religion, and the Fortune Creation Mysterious Gate have already begun their sweep. 3 days ago, many of the sect's true disciples and elders swarmed into the sea. I'm afraid you'll receive the news in a few days. Although the large sects are focused on Alioth Sea City, which is 40,000 kilometers away from your dragon-slaying island, you can't be careless. You have to be on guard against people who might leave the main group and attack other forces. Nalan Fei said. I understand. Xing Hui nodded. Has there been any movement from the Sky Origin Peak Lord? The Sky Origin Peak Lord has also joined the sweep, but there hasn't been any abnormalities for the time being. If there are any abnormalities, I'll immediately send a message to you. At this point, Nalan Fei paused for a moment. However, you have to be careful. Don't completely rely on my information. Based on some small details, the Sky Origin Peak Lord has already set his eyes on you. He has excluded me from his inner circle. Nalan Fei was a spirit-refining cultivator who had cultivated holy-grade aura chi. Moreover, her aura chi had reached large success during this period of time. Her battle prowess was so strong that she could even fight against ordinary spirit and chi unity realm cultivators. Even if she was not ranked in the top 10 of the forces that the Sky Origin Peak Master secretly controlled, she was not far from it. If the Sky Origin Peak Master really wanted to make a big move, it was impossible for him not to bring along such an expert. Currently, he had excluded Nalan Fei from his inner circle. Clearly, he was guarding against her secretly informing him. It seemed that the Sky Origin Peak Lord really suspected him. Is Peak Lord Void Origin a son of Chaos? Of course. Fortunately, his primal chaos level isn't very high, only rank 8. Even so, among the many Peak Masters, Peak Master Yuan is one of the most promising candidates for the Deputy Sect Master position. It was because of his potential that I decided to join him when I first joined the Hunyuan Heaven Sect. A rank 8 Son of Chaos. As long as a Son of Chaos wasn't at level 10, the threat he posed would be one level lower. Although Peak Lord Void Origin isn't a rank 10 Son of Chaos, he has cultivated holy grade cosmic chi and stepped into the Spirit Chi Unity stage with it as his foundation. Moreover, he awakened the bloodline of the divine beast Kuanping when he was in the awakening stage. Although it was very difficult to awaken it, and it fell to the holy grade when he was in the true chi stage, he still has the bloodline of a divine beast as his foundation. It's fiercer than ordinary holy grade cosmic chi. Nalan Fei smiled faintly. We should be thankful that he hasn't cultivated divine grade cosmic chi. Otherwise, a peak master who stepped into the Spirit Chi Unity stage with divine grade cosmic chi as his foundation would be promoted to the Deputy Sect Master position without any suspense. Take our Hunyuan Heaven Sect's son of Primordial Chaos Jiesu, for example. The moment he cultivated divine grade cosmic chi, he was appointed as one of the candidates for the Deputy Sect Master position. When he reached the Spirit Chi Unity stage, An exception was made for him to enjoy the treatment of Deputy Sect Master. Tsing Hui nodded. The Hunyuan Heaven Sect's son of Primordial Chaos, the Golden Crow Sect's Saint and Saintess, the Fortune Creation Sect's Son of Fortune, the Wuji Sword Sect's Wuji Sword Servant, and the Green Lotus Sword Sect's 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 son of Primordial Chaos, and so on. Take Jiesu, the son of Primordial Chaos, for example. Although his cultivation base was only at the Spirit Chi Unison stage, he could order the Primordial Chaos Heaven Sect's Palace Master to do things based on his treatment as the Deputy Sect Master and his powerful cultivation base. Even the Supreme Elder, who stood at the peak of the Immortality Stage Level 6, would give him face for some small matters. Peak of Unity of Spirit and Chi, large success of Saint-grade stellar energy. Tsing Hui pondered for a while. The Void Origin Peak Master's threat level might not be as high as Ling Yu's, but if he really set his sights on Zhou Yuan, the experts he would bring with him would not be as simple as Ling Yu's Dragon Shadow and Heavenly Treasure. He had to be prepared for a Palace Master level expert to accompany him. Tsing Hui, I told you to do your best to collect sea maps near the outer sea. Have you collected any? If you do, I suggest that you hide in an area near the outer sea for a while. Sea maps have always been the foundation of every faction's survival. The ferocious beasts in the sea are their trump cards against the 10 sacred sects, so they won't easily sell them. So far, the sea maps I've bought have only advanced 10,000 kilometers toward the outer sea. There are still 40 to 50,000 kilometers without a map to refer to. You have to do this as soon as possible. Otherwise, if the Hunyuan Heaven Sect learns that you've learned the Chaos Whole Sutra, the consequences will be unimaginable. Even if you join Celestial Dome, they won't let this matter rest. Jianing. Nalan Fei nodded. Now that the Hunyuan Heaven Sect has joined Jianing, they're no longer as wary of Celestial Dome as before. I understand. A cold light flashed in Tsing Hui's eyes. What if I kill the Sky Origin Peak Master? It's useless. If you kill the Sky Origin Peak Master, someone from the Hunyuan Heaven Sect will definitely want to take back the Chaos Whole Sutra. If they can't find the Chaos Whole Sutra, they'll naturally think of you. Besides, Peak Master disciples are the core of a sect and are far more powerful than ordinary true disciples. If such a person is killed, it'll be tantamount to provoking the entire Hunyuan Heaven Sect. The consequences will be unimaginable. Even if you're at the 6th layer of the Immortality Stage, there's no chance of reconciliation. Tsing Hui frowned and didn't say anything else. You can only think of a way to deceive the Sky Origin Peak Master and make him believe that the Chaos Whole Sutra isn't in your hands. If you can't deceive him, you can only retreat and go to the outer sea. I'll consider it. Nalan Fei nodded and sighed. She didn't know what to do either. In the end, she could only console him. I'll do my best to pay attention to the Sky Origin Peak Master's whereabouts. If he really goes to your dragon-slaying island, I'll immediately send you a message. Thank you, Tsing Hui said as he watched Nalan Fei leave. After Nalan Fei left, Tsing Hui frowned. For a time, there was nothing he could do. Although he was doing very well in the overseas region, and even the Spirit and Chi Unity stage experts on the Divine Dragon list were nothing in his eyes, his so-called overlord of the overseas region was ultimately too insignificant in front of a colossus like the Hunyuan Heaven Sect. Your Excellency Pak Hui. Not long after Tsing Hui left the Sky Dome realm, a somewhat unexpected voice rang out. Tsing Hui glanced over. It was the Dawn member with whom he had cooperated before, Feng Hui. Your Excellency Feng Hui. I haven't seen Your Excellency Pak Hui recently. I wonder what she's busy with. Just some trivial matters. By the way, Your Excellency Pak Hui, Leader Ling Yu is going to organize a large-scale trade with merchants from the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion. The Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion is one of the most reputable chambers of commerce. They're famous in the entire Chaos Divine Palace. As long as we have Taoist rhymes, we'll definitely be able to exchange them for treasures. We've worked together before. Do you want to join us this time? Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion? Tsing Hui had naturally heard of the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion. They were indeed very reputable. There was almost no news of them bullying others. However, not long ago, he had just exposed Ling Yu's identity. At this juncture, Ling Yu was actually organizing a trade with the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion. Did she think that Dawn's true identity would soon be exposed if they continued to maintain it? Was she planning to go crazy for the last time? When did this happen? Where's the trade location? It's a bit rushed. It's going to start in a month. The preliminary trade location is at the Blazing Mountain. A month? The Blazing Mountain? The Blazing Mountain was a mountain range near the Jin Wu religion's headquarters. It definitely wasn't a good place to trade. Furthermore, it was only a month? Many people won't be able to gather enough treasures in a month. Some people who are far away won't even be able to make it, right? Exactly. However, we have to follow the news of the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion merchant. We can't let the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion merchant wait for us, right? Although time is a bit tight and not everyone will be able to make it, we can only count on how many people come. After hearing this, Tsing Hui was almost certain that this was Ling Yu's last act of madness before disbanding Dawn. He cautiously said, "Feng Hui, if you trust me, it's best that you don't participate in this trade. You can also tell by Hai and the others. This time, there's a high chance that something will go wrong." Feng Hui frowned and looked at Tsing Hui. The Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion is one of the most reputable chambers of commerce in the Chaos Divine Palace. What could go wrong? That's all I have to say. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Goodbye. Tsing Hui clasped his hands and didn't say anything else. Ling Yu had a good reputation in Dawn. Even if he exposed Ling Yu's true identity as someone who had joined Dawn for less than 3 years, no one would believe him. If Ling Yu made a false accusation, he would be the one asking for trouble. Feng Hui watched Tsing Hui leave and frowned. In the end, he shook his head and tossed Tsing Hui's words to the back of his mind. It was rare for a merchant from the Heavenly First Treasure Pavilion to come to the Eastern Wasteland. Whether or not he could exchange for a rank 4 or even a rank 5 divine weapon depended on this. He definitely couldn't miss this opportunity. 1 month, the Blazing Mountain. Tsing Hui quickly left the Chaos Divine Palace and returned to his room. When I fought with Ling Yu, I used the Great Sun Golden Crow technique. I'm obviously not a member of the Jin Wu religion, so my Great Sun Golden Crow technique was obviously stolen. If I appear in the Jin Wu religion's territory and Ling Yu reports this to the Jin Wu religion, I'll definitely die. Under these circumstances, as long as I have a bit of rationality, I won't dare to casually step into the Blazing Mountain. No one will believe my words, and I don't dare to cause trouble in the Blazing Mountain. This is why Ling Yu set up the trade at the Blazing Mountain. Tsing Hui quickly understood Ling Yu's plan. However, the Jin Wu religion? He might be afraid of the experts from the other sects, but, with the Yang devouring orb, he wasn't afraid of the experts from the Jin Wu religion. Chapter 162. Island Master, we've interrogated the items in Dragon Shadow's personal space and his chaos incantation. Early the next morning, Yen Huang arrived outside Tsing Hui's room. Compared to before, his mental state had improved significantly. Clearly, he felt much more at ease now that he had gotten his revenge. "Oh? Did you find anything?" Dragon Shadow's personal space contains more items than we expected. Moreover, this subordinate accidentally discovered that the 10,000 supreme-grade fire spirit stones that belong to you are all in Dragon Shadow's personal space. Yen Huang's words startled Tsing Hui. Those supreme-grade fire spirit stones are in Dragon Shadow's personal space? A moment later, Xing Hui seemed to have thought of something. In order to make things more convenient, Ling Yu had offered up her personal space as a base for communication in Dawn. However, a Tier 1 personal space wasn't very big. Even if Ling Yu used it to its fullest extent, it was only equivalent to a 3-story building with 100 square meters per floor. With such a small personal space, and with so many people coming and going, wouldn't his identity be exposed if someone saw him leaving his valuables inside? Under such circumstances, he might as well leave the supreme-grade fire spirit stones with Dragon Shadow and let him deal with them. Apart from these supreme-grade fire spirit stones, this subordinate also discovered 2 Dao-carrying items on Dragon Shadow. One of them contains 1 Dao-carrying rhyme, while the other contains 4 Dao-carrying rhyme. Oh! Xing Hui's eyes lit up. Dragon Shadow actually has a ready-made Dao-carrying item on him? A Dao-carrying item with 5 Dao-carrying rhyme. With these, he would have enough Dao-carrying rhyme to cultivate at the core of the Great Sun. Generally speaking, primordial chaos children who have their own ideas would keep 1 or 2 Dao-carrying items as backups in case they coincidentally encounter merchants who wander to this continent. These merchants who wander here with their true bodies are usually not restricted by the Chaos Temple's price. After all, the large organizations in the Chaos Temple might not know their identities in the Chaos Temple. Even if they wanted to punish them, they wouldn't be able to do so. Xing Hui nodded. At the same time, he felt a little strange. This Dragon Shadow is very tactful. He only lasted for a day and he actually revealed all the chaos incantations. This, Yen Huang said somewhat uneasily. Actually, in less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Dragon Shadow had already told me everything he knew. This subordinate only interrogated him for another day to ensure that he wasn't hiding anything. Less than 1 incense stick's worth of time. Xing Hui was slightly startled, but he soon understood something. Dragon Shadow's job was to constantly capture Sons of Chaos alive and force them to reveal the secrets of the chaos arts they possessed. He knew very well what would happen to him if he fell into the hands of another Son of Chaos. To prevent himself from being tortured to the point where he couldn't even beg for death, he was much more willing than the other Sons of Chaos. As for what Blazing Huang said about the interrogation that would follow for the entire day, most likely, he was using his position to avenge a personal grudge. Those supreme-grade fire spirit stones need to be exchanged for fire spirit crystals. After some time, I'll need to make a trip to the inner lands. I'll personally bring these supreme-grade fire spirit stones to the inner lands to find a place to exchange them. Prepare these items well. After saying that, Xing Hui seemed to have thought of something. We also found a lot of good stuff from Wen Yu, Hei Yan, and the others. Organize these things properly for me. When the time comes, I will go inland and sell them. Yes. Blazing Huang acknowledged and quickly retreated. Now that Xing Hui had occupied Dragon Beheading Island, all the higher-ups of Dragon Beheading Island moved out at once. In less than 3 days, many items were prepared and stored in Xing Hui's personal space, which had been upgraded to the 2nd level. The 2nd level personal space had a 3-dimensional space of 100 meters, so it was easy to store a bunch of items. As there was still some time before the Blazing Flame Mountain gathering, Xing Hui wasn't in a hurry. After packing up, he left Dragon Beheading Island and arrived outside North Sea City. The moment he arrived at the lake outside North Sea City, the Xuanwu cub hiding in the lake seemed to sense his aura and quickly came out. It looked at Xing Hui with a fawning expression and shouted, "Master, Master, can we go into the sea now? Before confirming whether or not to go into the sea, I need you to answer some questions for me. Since your sister is the overlord of this sea, and she went directly to the outer seas, does she have a sea map that leads to the outer seas in her cave?" "Sea map? Master, you mean a map?" Yes. Of course she has it. Not only does she have a sea map, but she also has godly weapons and heavenly treasures. Master, as long as you follow me to kill the Hydra, I promise you that you will have everything you want. You will be able to eat and drink well, and I promise you that you will enjoy it for the rest of your life. Sing Hui's expression turned cold. Stop talking nonsense. If you still want to stay in this small lake, then continue to talk about other things. I only want an accurate answer. The black tortoise cub once again revealed an innocent and pure look as it said pitifully, Master, you must believe me. I would never dare to lie to you. After all, my future is all in your hands. How would I have the guts to lie to you? As the overlord of this sea region, my sister naturally knows all the powerful neighbors around here like the back of her hand. Otherwise, what if she encounters a monster that she can't beat when she goes out to scavenge? Scrounge for money? This reason, Sing Hui believed it. Very good. Where is your sister's cave? Can you guarantee that the things in the cave haven't been taken by the Jiuying? When I escaped, I locked the cave. The defense of the cave was personally set up by Big Sister. It's not that I want to brag, but even if there were 10 more of those 9 small creatures, they wouldn't be able to open the cave that Big Sister set up in a short time. But in the end, weren't you expelled by the Hydra and forced to flee inland? You still want to seek protection from the humans? The Xuanwu cub, who was originally in high spirits, suddenly lowered his voice and said weakly, This is a mistake. Regardless of whether it was a mistake or not, you've now become a stray dog, while 9-headed Hydra has occupied the ocean as the victor, becoming the overlord of a region. Moreover, he's constantly sending sea beasts to find your whereabouts, wanting to kill you. Humph. When I complete my evolution, it will be his time of death. That will take a few decades. Moreover, you can evolve, but can't the Hydra evolve? After a few decades, the Hydra will definitely break the cave your sister left behind and obtain the many treasures in the cave. Maybe it will evolve faster than you. At that time, when you have finally evolved to the 5th stage, the Hydra will have already evolved to the 6th stage, or even entered the mature stage and become a true sacred beast. At that time, you will still be seeking your own death. Master, can't you give me a little encouragement and comfort my hurt heart? The Xuanwu cub looked at Sing Hui with grievance. Okay, answer my question. Where is your sister's cave? Also, do you have a way to lure the Hydra to the coast? My sister's cave is about a kilometer below a small island. As for luring the Hydra is very timid. Even if I am a cub, it may not dare to come ashore. At most, it will send its subordinates to kill me. Once it feels that it can't deal with me, it will definitely escape immediately. Sing Hui frowned. This Jiuying really gave off a feeling of impenetrability. It's impossible for humans to be a match for sea beasts in the ocean. With the help of the ocean environment, a 4th-order sea beast even dares to provoke a 6th-order human and is about to fight the 9-headed snakelet at the bottom of the sea. I'll definitely die. Therefore, I'll give you 2 choices. Either you think of a way to lure the 9-headed snakelet to the shore, and I'll think of a way to kill it for you. Then, we'll split the treasures in your sister's cave equally. Or you can wait until the 9-headed snakelet opens your sister's cave one day and becomes a holy beast before you. Wu Master is inhumane. I am so pitiful. Seeing the Xuanwu cub start to complain, Sing Hui did not hesitate to turn around and leave. Almost at the moment he turned around, the crying stopped abruptly, and a voice full of determination followed. Hero, please wait. Sing Hui turned around. The Xuanwu cub had completely put away its pitiful and aggrieved appearance, and its extremely human-like face was full of sadness. Since you have already said so, then no matter what, I can only risk my life to accompany you, lest the world look down on the courage of the Xuanwu bloodline. Sing Hui looked at the serious Xuanwu cub, and had a strong impulse to kill it and refine its blood essence. After a while, he forcibly suppressed this thought. I will give you half a month to prepare. Half a month later, at the estuary of the Lamine River outside North Sea City, I will help you kill the Jiuying. If you are unable to lure it over, then from now on, don't ask me to help you take back your cave. Please rest assured, hero. Even if I have to sacrifice this old life of mine, I will definitely not let you down. Swoosh! Sing Hui's figure flashed, and directly disappeared without a trace. It is time to settle the score with the Hydra. Half a month later, I and the Hydra will decide who is the true overlord of this sea. The Xuanwu cub said in a low voice, its face full of seriousness as if a great battle was about to break out. The Jiuying was able to defeat the other rank 5 sea monsters in the sea and become the overlord of this sea. Its cultivation level was definitely not as simple as a rank 5 holy beast. It was very likely to be a peak rank 5 holy beast. Such a sea monster, in terms of combat power, would not be inferior to an ordinary rank 6 immortality stage prominent divine stage. Even if it went ashore and its strength weakened, it would probably be above the so-called Shakya Muni and Palace Masters. To deal with such a terrifying sea monster, Sing Hui had no choice but to put in 120% of his effort. Fortunately, he was no longer alone. He had the entire dragon-slaying island as his backing. As he let the Xuanwu cub set the battlefield at the estuary of the Longming River, the resources of the dragon-slaying island were immediately transported to the Sea Breeze Fortress that guarded the Longming River. At the same time, the 6 elemental destruction cannons that had been placed on the dragon-slaying island's city wall were removed. 3 of them were installed on the 3 battleships, and the other 3 were placed on the Sea Breeze Fortress's city wall. The elemental destruction cannon was a war machine that was even more terrifying than the elemental destruction cannon. It was a weapon that was specially developed by the master of weapon refinery for large-scale wars. At its highest level, it could launch an attack that was equivalent to an immortality stage level 6 immortality stage powerhouse's full attack. The only downside was that the charging speed was a little slow. Under the situation where no one was fighting with the target, the hit rate was less than 10%. After all the preparations were done, more than 10 days had passed. When the cooldown of the divine skill was restored, Sing Hui immediately set off to the Sea Breeze Fortress. Everything was ready, and he was only waiting for the Xuanwu cub to lure the Jiuying over. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.